and figure out why you didn't get the link this time. I know I had to search for mine, but it's possible that something went wrong.
We are live. I will let the attendees in.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're just going to wait for all the attendees to get in. There's still a few more, Jackie. Okay, why don't we go ahead and get started? Welcome everyone to the July 28th meeting of the San Francisco Democratic County Central Committee. My name is Honey Mahogany and I'm chair of this committee. Madam Recording Secretary, if you could please call the roll.
Yes, thank you so much, Chair Mahogany. All right, Member Avalos.
Present.
Member Braca.
Present.
Member Barry.
Present.
Member Campos.
Present.
Member Chen.
Present.
Member Dufty.
I believe Member Williams is going to be the proxy for Dufty.
Thank you. Member Galata.
Present.
Member Haney.
Here by proxy.
Member Ibanez. Member Kim. Member Lacroix.
Present.
Member Lee here. Member Loftus.
Here by proxy.
Member Lovett.
Here.
Member Chair Mahogany. Member Mandelman. Member Marr.
Alan Wong here for Gordon Marr.
Thank you. Member Maliga. Member Morales.
Proxy.
Member Raju.
Present by proxy.
Member Ronan. Member Thomas.
Here. Present.
Member Tung.
Present.
Just want to say congratulations to Member Tung. Member Williams. Member Williams. All right. Member Feinstein.
I just got a message that Member Williams is
President. I'm also proxy for
I'm sorry.
Member Duffy. Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Chanel. I got it. All right. Member Feinstein.
Here by proxy.
Member Pelosi.
Here by proxy.
Member Spear.
Here by proxy.
Member Kunalakas mentioned that she will not be here. So Member Ma.
Here by proxy.
Member Cohen.
Proxy.
Member Weiner.
Proxy.
Member Chu.
Proxy.
Member Ting.
Proxy.
Great. We have 28 present, including the proxy, so we have quorum.
All right, thank you, Madam Recording Secretary.
Sorry, Recording Secretary. I'm here proxy for Ronan as well. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hey, Member Lee, I'm here as well. I had trouble getting on the Zoom.
I got you all. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? Okay. We will now move on to the approval of the meeting agenda. If I'm not mistaken, there actually is a change to the 72-hour agenda. I believe the resolution by Member Campos and Braca is going to be tabled. Is that correct?
Yes, Madam Chair, we will be withdrawing it for now, and we will be bringing it back at a different time.
All right. Can I have a motion to amend the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the motion passes. Can we now have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All
Aye.
opposed? Any abstentions? The meeting agenda is approved. We will now move on to the approval of the June 23rd meeting minutes. Does anyone have any concerns about the agenda?
Motion to approve the minutes. Oh, I see member Ting.
Thanks. So I emailed this already to some members of a couple of the executive board members, but I do have a couple of amendments that need to be made to the minutes. So, and I was asked to mention those. So first of all, for item number 7 in the minutes, there are comments from myself and from member Ma that were cut off. I will let Isabel chime in, but I had written out kind of what the comments were for member Ma about abstaining because of her policy not to vote on items pertaining to the state budget. And we also echoed a similar sentiment where while we support the item in spirit, we cannot vote on an item pertaining to the budget. So that's the first amendment that I request to make. And then the second amendment is that the vote count for item 8 is wrong. For item 8, that passed by acclamation with no abstentions. Oh, I can watch the video. And I was like, this is not what I remember. So.
Okay, I apologize for that. Alex, I think I've copied what you've said. So can you just maybe chat me in Zoom just to make sure I have it accurately recorded? And then hopefully, Member Lacroix, you'll be able to take that as a friendly amendment.
Yes, motion to approve the minutes as amended.
I also have one correction or one question mark. In item number 6, it reads in the first full paragraph, looks like it's an incomplete sentence. Member Berry offers introductory remarks and the leadership of the Bay Area Councilperson Barbara Leach introduced the George Floyd Act. Thanks, Chair Mahogany and Member Raju for the.
That was my mistake. I'll make sure I go back to the minutes and read. I'm just often trying to do this live, so I apologize.
Thank you for catching that. Any other amendments to the meeting minutes? Seeing none, we have a motion on the floor to approve as amended. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Any abstentions? The meeting minutes are approved. We will now go on to general public comment, and we will pass it on to our new executive director. I do want to just take a moment, even though she will be able to speak to you a little bit more later during the executive director report, to please welcome Jackie Prager, who beat out an exceptional group of applicants for the executive director role, and but far outshined all of them with her experience, with her can-do attitude, and has already proven to be an incredibly effective leader here at the Democratic Party. So please welcome Executive Director Jackie Prager.
Thank you so much, Chair Mahogany. Wonderful. So to those attendees who have joined us this evening and would like to make a public comment, please use the raise hand function, which can be found at the bottom of your Zoom screen. I will be reading the name of each speaker prior to bringing them onto the panelist side to speak. So please pay attention for when your name is called. When it's your turn, I will bring you onto the panelist side. You can make your public comment. Each speaker will have 2 minutes, at which point you will hear an alarm or a message from me letting you know that your time is up. I will bring you into the panelist side in the order that I see hands raised. So thank you in advance for your patience. And if you're joining this call via phone, please dial *9. If you can't find or use the raise hand function, please send an email to info@sfdemocrats.org so we can assist you. So if there are no questions, we will start with our first speakers. Mark Press will speak first, then Stephanie Lehman. Mark, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Wonderful.
All right. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Mark Press. I am the founder and currently the Vice President of Political Engagement for the San Francisco Sex Positive Democratic Club, or the Sex Positive Dems. We advocate for non-monogamous folks, queer folk, BSM community, and sex workers. Our charter renewal is item 60 on your agenda. And if the committee has any questions, you can feel free to address them to myself or our new president, who's also on the call, Rebecca Matola Barnes. As a polyamorous and bisexual man, I founded this organization in 2018 because I saw a gap in our local activism around sex positive issues. We were originally chartered by the SFDCCC in 2019. And as far as we know, we are the first and still the only political organization in the nation to be chartered by the Democratic Party with sex positivity as our primary mission. Since then, we've had hundreds of people attend our events, including panels on discrimination towards non-monogamous folks, BDSM in the law, and discrimination of sex work, or decriminalization of sex work, among others. We've also done a fundraiser for St. James Infirmary, voter registration at Folsom Street Fair, lots of happy hours. And currently, we're working to pass legislation that would protect non-monogamous folks from discrimination, as well as legalizing non-monogamous domestic partnership. And we're doing that work in coalition with the Harvard Law School LGBTQ+ Advocacy Clinic and the American Psychological Association Committee on Consensual Non-Monogamy. I'm really excited to be able to, now that I'm doing policy work, focus on that and not run the organization, and that we have a great new president who will be taking the floor for us. We look forward to being rechartered and hope we can work together with the DCCC in the future.
Our next speaker is Stephanie Lehman, followed by Rebecca Montola Barnes. Stephanie, can you hear us? Stephanie, you have to unmute yourself.
Sorry about that. Good evening, everyone. As you know, my name is Stephanie Lehman, Delegate AD for AD 19, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself, as well as Delegates Wessinger, Roa, Coles, Todd, Golden, Sweet, and Natoli, to ask you to support the resolution put forth as is by Nancy Tung, urging this body to condemn the recent attacks on our democracy, namely the stealing and defacing of recall petitions. The Democrats are the party of tolerance and inclusion. We are the party that protects the civil liberties of the marginalized, the disenfranchised, and the oppressed. We are not the party that tolerates breaking laws, normalizes voter suppression, or interferes with the democratic process. In fact, voters' rights are so important to us Democrats that our very own CADEM has developed a voter protection program to ensure that our democratic process cannot be interfered with. And let's be clear, stealing and defacing recall petitions is unequivocally an attack on our democratic process. Stealing recall petitions is also a federal crime. It may not be as overt as a march on our Capitol, but it is equally as damaging in its effects to undermine our democracy. I would be very disheartened and shocked if any elected Democrat in the DCCC believed that denying voters their right to have their voices heard and their signatures counted was an acceptable outcome for any reason, let alone an illegal one. And you should also know that if you do find such illegal behavior acceptable, you are in the minority opinion and do not by any measure represent the majority of San Franciscans. Would you find it acceptable if the recalls that were stolen and defaced were the petitions to vote no on Gavin Newsom's recall and the criminal act was perpetrated by a Republican? While there seems to be an alarming and unhealthy trend by some in this city to applaud policies and behavior that enable and celebrate the disregard of the rule of law in San Francisco, the words lawless and democracy do not belong in the same sentence. It is an embarrassment that such a resolution even has to be written in this great city of San Francisco, and it would be undemocratic and highly hypocritical not to support it. Thank you so much for your time.
Excellent timing, thank you. Our next speaker is Rebecca Montola Barnes, followed by Louise Whitlock. Rebecca, can you hear us?
All right, I just unmuted myself and my video's on. Now you can see and hear me too. Hi, I am here to echo what Mark Press said. I am the now president of the San Francisco Sex Positive Democratic Club, and I am here to request that you vote in favor of rechartering our organization. This is a step towards our, probably not, I shouldn't say global domination goals, but we do have plans to expand in California. A lot of people are interested in participating in this that are in jurisdictions outside of San Francisco. And so we really want our club to be a model that people can reproduce in other jurisdictions. And we need to be chartered to do that. So please vote yes. And thank you for your time. Also, my cat says hi.
Great. Our next speaker is Louise Whitlock, followed by Kit Lamb. Louise, can you hear us? Louise, you have to unmute.
All right. Hi, this is Louise Whitlock, longtime San Francisco resident and very long time Liberal Democrat. I'm calling in tonight to express my support for member Nancy Tung's resolution in support of protecting our democratic processes. I am very disappointed in the resolution that the DCCC passed several months ago, condemning the effort to recall members of the Board of Education. I'm a volunteer for that recall effort, and as I stated previously, a longtime Liberal Democrat, having campaigned for and fundraised for numerous Democratic candidates over time. As the resolution tonight states, recall campaigns and elections are a legal and fundamental process for voters to express their views on policy and whether elected officials are acting in the best public interest. It was inappropriate for this Democratic Party to have involved itself in this matter, pitting Democrats against Democrats. The DCCC should rescind the resolution condemning the Board of Education recall effort. Further, in late May, my friend and colleague, a fellow Democrat and an Asian American immigrant from Hong Kong, was working on the Board of Education recall effort at the Clement Street Farmers Market. A white male approached his table and stole signed petitions while my friend's back was turned. My friend chased this thief and demanded that he return the stolen petitions. The incident was videotaped. This was a serious crime. I fear that my friend was targeted and harassed because of his race, given the many awful ongoing attacks there have been against Asian Americans in San Francisco. The Democratic Party rightfully condemns voter suppression and election interference at the national level and in other states, and thus it is imperative that the Democratic Party of San Francisco categorically condemns the stealing of these signed recall petitions, which was a form of voter suppression and election interference. Please vote yes on this resolution tonight. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Kit Lamb, followed by John Schwark. Kit, are you with us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Kit Lam. I'm the victim of the Recall SF School Board petition theft case. I'm an immigrant from Hong Kong. My wife and I are registered Democrats. I'm not affiliated with any political organization or club. I'm calling to support Member Tung's resolution and urging DCCC members to vote yes on this resolution. The theft incident occurred on May 30th, 2021. The video of the confrontation between me and the suspect has attracted almost 500,000 views on Twitter. The suspect was trying to steal signed petitions with multiple signatures of Chinese Americans. By doing so, he was trying to silence Asian American voices. Recall is part of the democratic process. There are California election law written to protect recall petitions from criminal activities. I was lawfully exercising my democratic right and volunteering my time to gather signatures. yet my rights was being violated by the suspect. The suspect might have committed a felony for signing a fake name on a petition and committed a misdemeanor for stealing signed petitions in violation of California Election Law 18613 and 18631. The suspect's criminal behavior should not be tolerated because he has engaged in voter suppression activities. This resolution has nothing to do with whether you personally support the recall effort or not. Voter suppression activities and criminal behavior should be easy to condemn. As a victim, I expect every one of you to vote yes and support Tang's resolution. The Chinese community, the immigrant community, the Asian American community, and the nation is watching. Thank you.
Our next speaker is John Schwark and will be followed by Siyu Mo. John, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Thank you. My name is John Schwark, and I'm a proud San Francisco Democrat in support of Nancy Tang's resolution on protecting our democratic processes. The microscope is on this body to be fair and not sweep the petition theft and false signings under the rug. Moderate Dems who support the BOE recall are concerned there will be no justice since it seems the accused is well connected to local progressives. It has been in the news that the San Francisco DA has already had to recuse himself and pass the case to the California Attorney General. Meanwhile, police investigators await charges and permission to make an arrest and name a suspect. If the party doesn't deal with this locally, I'm afraid it will become part of a national conversation around voter fraud and intimidation, but with Democrats as the villains. Let's not let that happen in San Francisco. Maybe you have reservations about this becoming a witch hunt. After all, it appears to have just been one person behaving badly on a whim. I implore you to watch the video. On Twitter, before the version of the video with the suspect's face unblurred was released, some people compared the petition theft to graffiti on campaign signs. It's not the same. It's interfering with an actual signed election document. That's part of how we express what we want to our government. It turns out days later, after the clear video without the blurred face of the suspect became available, the suspect was tentatively identified in photos at a 2019 Chartered Club event in the Richmond district, near the scene of the crime. He appears to have been friends or at least acquaintances with the very same people who were downplaying the crimes on Twitter. You may feel that too harsh of a punishment in the context of public outcry would not be fair. That's actually fine. The sentence can be in proportion to the scale of the crime. This is not a massive thing, but it's really important. It's important that formal charges are filed and the suspect is named because anything else will look like a cover-up. You are the caretakers of the reputation of the Democratic Party in a city with a de facto one-party system. I implore you to support this
2 minutes
resolution.
has elapsed. Your speaking time is now up. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Our next speaker is Siyu Mo, followed by Susan Pfeiffer. Siyu, can you hear us?
How about now? Can you hear me now? My bad, I was muted. Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. First, I want to congratulate member Nancy Tang for having a kid. I think it's a really cute picture that I saw online. So congratulations and thank you so much for still showing up to work. And today I want to make 2 comments. The first comment is on the recall of our governor. I would just want to call in to express my concern based on what I'm seeing on the ground. There is some voter apathy, as well as I'm concerned that we are not stressing enough about the contribution and the leadership that the governor has shown during the pandemic. And our messaging has mostly been focusing on, a power grab or whatnot. I totally understand that, but I hope that we will be more positive and talk about the successes and the leadership that the governor has shown so that people has a reason to keep him. So I just want to kind of express that as a voter and a supporter and a Democrat, registered Democrat. And secondly, I want to make a comment and urge all the members today to support the resolution by Nancy Tang. to condemn the petition stealing. It is not a political issue. It is frankly a moral, a legal, and a democratic issue. When it's a legal document, we shouldn't be stealing them. And it is an easy decision to make for the Democratic Party of San Francisco to just say, no, we do not support such an action. It is illegal. We are party of law and rule followers. We are a party that supports democracy. So I hope that DCCC will support the resolution as is without any modification. Just keep politics out of it and stay true to our values and do not let our political disagreements make this a political issue. Let's just say what it is, and that is we are against law.
Your speaking time
Thank you
is
so
now
much.
up.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Susan Pfeiffer. I see no other hands for the time being.
There we go. Am I unmuted?
Yes.
And I'll open my video. Hi. Thank you, CU, for teeing it up for me. And I first want to welcome Jackie Prager and congratulate you on this job. And I look forward to working closely with you as I have with your predecessors. And so great to have you on board. And also congrats to Nancy Tung. Whoever her proxy is, please share all the congrats that we're sending. A couple of things I want to talk about tonight. First is the Stop the Recall project that San Francisco Democratic Party has put their name on and is leading the pack along with the California Democratic Party and Democracy Action and Swing Left. We had our first phone bank last Saturday at Manny's. It was the kickoff. And just thank you to the 8 of us showed up, all of whom are on the call tonight. If member Baraka is still on, that makes number 8, and a few walk-ups, which, there you go, Keith, which were great to see, but it's not enough. And as CU just mentioned, we could go down in flames on this with apathy. And we have a little over 6 weeks to do this. And calling voters right now is the most productive thing we can do. Because you can get inflection, you can have a conversation, you can tell if they're being truthful when they say yes or no. And most of them do not know about this. UC Berkeley poll that came out yesterday says that of likely voters, only 50% are saying they will vote no on the recall and 47% saying yes. The Republicans are fired up. If we don't get behind this and we lose our governor, don't say I wish I had afterwards. So I'm going to be a little tough. And as far as the phone bank last week, once is not enough. We need to get the word out. Manny's has been incredibly welcoming to us. The room works great. We can have different clubs sponsor parts of the room. We can separate that way. We can socially distance. Manny has instituted a new requirement that people show proof of vaccination, which we will do when they come in. And the Pelosi's have asked that we also encourage people to wear a mask when they're not eating or drinking, because we do ask people to buy food or beverage there. But you can make calls with a mask on. It's okay. And if you're socially distanced, I think we'll be okay. So, and thank you, Jason, for putting 2 weeks worth of mobilized links up. We need to have more up because I've already had more people sign up for August 7th than this weekend. We have 2 signups for this weekend. If you're coming, please sign up so we know to expect you. And we just got to keep that going. My second thing is that this morning, Cover California unveiled the new rates for next year when open enrollment starts again in late October or early November for next year. The great news is for the first time, San Francisco will only see a 1.3% rate increase in premiums, which is unbelievable because we've always been the highest rate increase of anywhere in the state. And they're even, Blue Cross is returning to the exchange. Blue Shield is still there. So with the new American Rescue Plan money, no one will pay more than 8.5% of their annual income. And if anyone has collected unemployment at any time in 2021, They're eligible for the most incredible program I've ever seen. It's the Silver 94 plan for $1 a month, and it's an amazing plan. So if I'm going to say this again, we have people who do not have health care in San Francisco. They all have a supervisor that represents them. And I don't think the word is getting out to them. I'm an enrollment counselor. I'm happy to do for any supervisor that has people in their district that need enrollment. I'm happy to connect them with Cover California. I'm happy to do a large enrollment event with you and bring more people in. We just want to get this done. It's a great opportunity. And then next year, we're going to have to fight like hell to make these new rates permanent, because people are getting used to them and they're going to want to keep them. And this is the biggest breakthrough in healthcare we've had in many years. While we're still working on through the state legislature and the governor on Medicare for all, let's keep this going. And that's it tonight. Thank you all. And I look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Sue. There is one more hand up for public comment, and that is Brandy Markman. Oh, there are more hands up. Brandy, can you hear us? Brandy, you have to unmute.
My apologies. Good evening, everyone. My name is Brandy Markman, and I am calling in to express my concerns with Member Tung's resolution about the recalls. A couple of meetings ago, I was very proud that this body passed a resolution opposing all of these recalls, and I'm bothered by some of the language in Member Tung's resolution that framed the recalls as democratic. They're not. They do not respect the election results that came out a couple of years ago about our DA, about our governor, about our Board of Education. This is just not a healthy way to run a democracy, is to have a recall every time you disagree with someone over a policy issue. Obviously, if any of these people who are under recall threat had done something egregious, that would be one thing. But I just feel that this is very unnecessary. I feel that a lot of the language in Member Tung's resolution is not in keeping with the spirit of the resolution that the DCCC passed opposing the recalls. I want to say very clearly that I do not condone the stealing of any petition thefts. I also do not condone people coming on and going on Twitter and saying that, there are probably about 20 people spreading rumors about people being involved in this when they weren't. So I just want to be very clear. I also am concerned about this recall because we see Democrats, unfortunately, colluding with Republicans on all three of these recalls, and we just can't have that. There's a statement about January 6th, when the Board of Ed recall leaders go onto Glenn Beck, who is on record for inciting the January 6th insurrection, which attacked Nancy Pelosi's office. That is just not any kind of thing that we want to be involved in.
Your speaking time is up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Our next speaker is Kathy Amendola. Kathy, can you hear us? You have to unmute.
Okay, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. My name is Kathy Amendola. I am a very proud supporter of the Democrat Party. And I wanted to say that I am part of a group called Postcards to Voters. And I have been part of this since 2017. Postcard to Voters is a national grassroots organization where people volunteer to print their own postcards, and we follow Tony the Democrat in Atlanta. Tony sends out lists of Democrat voters in which we target to on state elections levels. And I have to say, Joe Biden would not be elected and our Kamala Harris if it wasn't for Tony, the Democrat. And we are now 75,000 volunteers, and our pens are mightier than our swords. And I have to say, we would love to join you in reaching out to Democrat voters all over the state of California and helping our party again gain control and to praise Governor Newsom, what he's been doing. So we are ready and willing to help our democracy, and we would love for you to join us and let us help you. So this is huge, and we want to be part of this. And like I say, we have 75,000 volunteers ready to write their own postcards according to your message, our own stamps according to your valuable voters' addresses. Thank you.
Thank you. I see no other hands for public comment. So I guess we will continue.
Thank you so much, Director Prager, and thank you to the members of the public who came and spoke today. We will now move on to our next agenda item. We have here a presentation on Waterfront Resilience Program by the Port of San Francisco. Do we have a representative of the Port of San Francisco here with us? Yes, can we bring them on, please?
Yes. Nadia, can you hear us?
Thank you for being here.
It's showing me as Nadia. My name is actually Wendy Proctor. I'm with the Port of San Francisco. I'd like to thank you all for having us. I have a presentation to share, so let me get that slideshow going. Host is disabled the participant screen sharing, so.
If it's okay with the chair, I just wanted to jump on and as our presenter is getting situated, just wanted to say hi, Wendy. Thank you so much for coming and presenting before the DCCC. It's nice to have you as a colleague, and it's also really wonderful to see you in this capacity as well with a different hat on, well, at least for me to have a different hat on. I hope everyone has listening ears. I think you guys will be really, you guys will have a lot to take away from this presentation. So thank you.
Thank you, Leah.
You should be able to share your screen now.
Okay. Share screen. Go to the PowerPoint. Share, and I just need to put it into presentation mode. There we go. All right. So good evening, everybody, and thank you for inviting the Port to present to you today. My name is Wendy Proctor again, and I'm a senior architect and ADA coordinator at the Port of San Francisco. The Port of San Francisco manages 7.5 miles of bayside shoreline that is home to some of the region's most popular open spaces and attractions, hundreds of small businesses, maritime and industrial uses, and nearby housing. I'm happy to be able to introduce to you or update you on the Port of San Francisco's Waterfront Resiliency Program, which we also call WRP, or the program to keep it short. The WRP team would like to express how important it is to the Port and the city to use the bond resources as effectively as possible by focusing first on the urgent earthquake, flood, and emergency response risks. We're engaging as many we're engaging as many stakeholders and community members as possible to ensure that their priorities are reflected. And this presentation will be about 15 minutes, and you'll have the opportunity for questions at the end. So tonight I'll be presenting an overview of the Waterfront Resiliency Program, the Embarcadero Seawall Program, the adaptation strategies, and the team is currently developing to address and the risks found in the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Flood Resiliency Study and the multi-hazard risk assessment, and things that we've learned so far from outreach and great engagement. There's a lot going on. It's a lot of different things, a lot of balls in the air, as they say. So the goal of the program is for the port to take actions to reduce seismic and climate change risks that support safe, equitable, sustainable, and a vibrant waterfront. So here you can see the timeline that for the WRP work, from studying existing conditions and risks at the beginning, development of strategies and plans, and all while engaging with stakeholders such as yourself. And this slide illustrates the port-wide and unique regional effects that are underway. The WRP efforts and port-wide work, the ADAPT plan, and the Army Corps of Engineers flood resiliency study and the floodproofing of the piers. Within the 7.5 miles of port waterfront, there are 3 unique geographic areas. We have the Embarcadero in the north, we have the Mission Creek and Mission Bay in the central waterfront, and Islias Creek and the Bayview in the southern waterfront. And the highlights within those geographic area efforts include the Embarcadero Seawall Program in the northern waterfront, the southern waterfront seismic vulnerability assessment, and the partnership with the San Francisco Planning and the SFMTA on the Islias Creek adaptation strategy. The Embarcadero Seawall Program is a citywide effort to create more sustainable and resilient waterfront by strengthening, repairing, or replacing a century-old seawall related infrastructure that underpins over 3 miles of historic urban shoreline from Fisherman's Wharf to Mission Creek. The Embarcadero Seawall is a very important aspect of San Francisco. It's made of rock and concrete and lays the foundation for a thriving waterfront that we know and we love today. It supports many of the city's local businesses, parks, and iconic destinations. It also supports key utilities and transportation infrastructure, including BART, Muni, and the ferry networks. While it is remarkable, it was a remarkable engineering feat for its time 100 years ago. The Embarcadero Seawall is now over 100 years old and is deteriorating and in desperate need of repair. The seawall is highly vulnerable to earthquake damage, including instability of the shoreline. It's no longer able to provide adequate coastal flood protection due to sea level rise and subsidence. The program will be strengthening, repairing, or replacing the seawall, targeting life safety projects first, funded by the Prop A bond that was voted in by San Francisco. And the goal is to have these completed by 2026. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Flood Resiliency Study is a 5 to 7 year Army Corps port partnership that analyzes current and future flood risks and determines federal interest in the seawall project. The study covers the entire 7.5 miles of waterfront of port, from Aquatic Park to Heron's Head Park in the Bayview. The Army Corps makes the determination to partner with the port on a project, and if they do make that determination, 2/3 of the funding will be provided by the Army Corps of Engineers. The waterfront assets that are at risk that have been determined as part of the study are 25 miles of Muni and cable car track, approximately 100,000 regional commuters, 13,500 residents, 58% of those people of color. Things that we've been learning to date. Now, some key findings on our multi-hazard risk assessment, also known as the MHRA. The multi-risk hazard assessment is a super important tool. This assessment was a 3-year effort that provides important engineering and technical information. It provides factual information about soil stability, flood risk, and much more that provides a foundation for planning and engineering studies to move forward to become actual design and construction projects. Key findings from the study include the entire Embarcadero has significant flood risk, between 2 to 3 feet of sea level rise. The ferry building area and the historic bulkhead wharves have significant seismic risk, and an estimated cost of $300 billion in damages and disruption from combined seismic and flood by 2100. Strong ground shaking and liquefaction settlement will cause significant damage to the Embarcadero roadway and buried utilities, aging piles and aging pile supported structures in the Fisherman's Wharf area. So with that, now that we understand what the risks are that the waterfront is facing, we also talk about mitigation measures that can help reduce those risks. So we talk about what are measures. So measures are the building blocks for a comprehensive approach to protecting the waterfront from flooding, sea level rise, and seismic events. The port's goal is to identify the most appropriate seismic and flood improvement measures to protect the unique waterfront conditions in alignment with the community priorities and where they're feasible and cost effective. This is an example of some measures. This is a sheet pile method that helps with flooding and seismic, as well as this is an example of piles that are seismic. And then we have examples of flood measures, such as riprap or wave attenuation. Then, based on the findings in the MHRA and stakeholder engagement work, port staff are formulating project options called adaptation strategies, which incorporate both seismic and flood reduction measures where possible. The project options that we are developing focus on applying various measures and actions in site-specific ways to reduce seismic and flood risk. These infrastructure strategies contemplate different actions having different benefits, impacts, and residual risks. Another way of saying there's no magic bullet, unfortunately. So the ADAPT plan is the port's resilience roadmap. We are facing urgent earthquake and flood risks and other climate change impacts that impact city and port. The ADAPT plan will guide resilience efforts across the entire waterfront with transparency and innovation in mind, while ensuring engagement with communities throughout the process. This slide gives a waterfront-wide snapshot of funding and finance recommendations of the Waterfront Resilience Plan, ADAPT plan. As you can see, $425 million from Proposition A funds have been secured, which will be used from Fisherman's Wharf to Mission Creek. So what have we heard? The Waterfront Resilience Program is engaged with stakeholders and members of the community through community and advisory groups, digital engagement, street team outreach, and engagement with city partners. Community engagement has helped affirm the program's focus on life safety and emergency response, prioritize assets most loved by the community and important to the city, and to emphasize the people first approach. The community identified by port and the city assets that need to be protected, and these colors correlate with those 3 geographical areas that we were in the previous slide. This valuable community feedback will be used to map common issues, learn how best to engage with the community, particularly the youth who will be inheriting these issues and the plans, and inform the WRP, such as, and so this is you. Here's what is upcoming with the Waterfront Resiliency Program. So the ADAPT plan is going to be published. We'll continue with our community convenings. We're continuing to focus on youth engagement through community-based organizations, as the youth are very important in this program. And we're going to be engaging with tenants and workers across the businesses in the waterfront, and continue with updates and outreach with groups like this via community presentations. So I would like to thank you. We appreciate your time and we look forward to your questions. We look forward to staying connected and hearing your ideas for our waterfront. So if you have any questions coming up after this meeting that aren't coming to you now, we also have these monthly Ask Me Anything sessions that are virtual. They are held on every third Thursday of the month or every third Thursday of the month from 4:30 to 5. And we will be dropping the link to that in the chat. So with that, I'd like to say thank you again. And also we have the website for the Port Resilience also there, which we will also drop in the chat. So this gives you the opportunity to receive program updates. And so you can register and subscribe and we can keep you informed.
Thank you so much, Ms. Proctor. Are you available to answer any questions?
Yes.
Colleagues, are there any questions or comments? Mr. Perkins?
So, Ms. Proctor, thank you very much for doing that presentation. Congresswoman Spear has been deeply involved with the issue of sea level rise in both San Francisco and in San Mateo counties. And our two counties are two of the most vulnerable counties in all of California. And it's a little bit difficult to contemplate the idea of the entire port of San Francisco being functionally unavailable, but that's the risk that's presently being made, or the risk that's presently before us if we don't get something done within the next few decades. So kudos to the port, and also kudos to the speaker, because she's the one that's been able to get the study done for the port. And as you can tell, there's going to be a substantial federal contribution because of the speaker's work on getting that study done, about 2/3 of the money. And sitting as I am in my seat on a daily basis, looking at other areas around the region and the problems that we have, I'm in awe of the ability of the port to get its work done. So thank you so much for setting a great example.
Thank you very much.
Member
Thank
Barry.
you.
Thank you. Yes. I had a few questions. One, the Army Corps of Engineers failed the people of New Orleans. Do you think this is a resolve so that San Francisco does not go through the same thing? And also you mentioned that there'll be 11,000 jobs for people of color. Do you have any numbers on how many Black people will be hired? And if those jobs will just be for Black people to hold the sign that says stop and slow? And what protection for workers risking exposure to toxins near the Hunters Point shipyard will be taken?
I think I'll have to do that one at a time. First one was
the Army Corps of Engineers failed the people of New Orleans. Do you see this solution as a resolve to save San Francisco from going through the same thing?
What I can say is that we are working closely with the Army Corps of Engineers. We have just begun engaging with them. So I think what I've been hearing is that it's a very positive experience so far, and they are really wanting to partner with us and do something effective here. I'm sure, that I also can tell you that there are different Army Corps teams throughout the US. So the team that worked at New Orleans may be different than the one that we're working with, but that might be, I don't know that I can answer that question specifically, but it might be something that I could follow up on further if you would like. Do you want to go to the next one?
Yeah. Also, you mentioned there'll be 11,000 jobs. That's often a convincing point of why we should go forward on projects. So how many, you said there will be people of color hired. Do you know how many Black people, and are those few jobs for Black people just the ones holding the stop signs and the slow signs?
I believe what I had said was, just going back to the slide, that the waterfront wide assets that are at risk are 11,000 jobs. That is what we're talking about there, is if we do nothing, that would be what is impacted, because the Hunters Point shipyard would be flooded. And that Hunters Point is actually outside of our jurisdiction, but it would impact, that's what there's the cost of doing nothing, and that what those are 13 1,500 residents, 58% people of color, would be impacted if we didn't do anything. So that's what we were explaining in that.
How
slide.
many of the 11,000 jobs would be for Black people?
Well, I don't, that it's kind of a different thing that we're talking about, but we do, as part of this program, engage with local business enterprises and do a lot of outreach, specifically in the area of the Southern waterfront. So at this, currently the seawall program is going to be in the Northern waterfront, and the Army Corps of Engineers program is going to be the entire waterfront. So that'll be more holistic along the port's shoreline. So we do a lot of outreach, and currently the program is getting information from people of color, as well as on the team itself. We have, the local business enterprise criteria that we have for hiring.
Okay, and lastly, your presentation, it said down to the like the India Basin near Bayview, Hunters Point. So my question was, what protection for workers that will be risking exposure to toxins will be taken?
We don't have any design solutions at this point in the Southern waterfront, but I know that is one of the overarching goals of the program, is that we would be making improvements to the environment, which would be, if there's an opportunity to do any cleanup that's associated with a work site, that would be part of that program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we have Member Thomas.
Thank you, Chair Mahogany. I'd like to thank you for the presentation. This is very informative, and I appreciate you coming here and talking to us today. I also wanted to thank Member Berry for those questions. I think they're really pertinent. I was wondering, just to follow up on them, if you could tell us a little bit more about specifically workforce policies, not local business policies, but if this will be, I suppose, the non-federal components, would they be subject to any local workforce policies, such as mandatory local hire or something similar that would facilitate bringing candidates from the neighborhood onto the job site and training them in those sorts of job skills, since we have those sorts of programs here in the city?
All city contracts, the Port of San Francisco follows the same contracting laws, administratively laws that the city has. And all of those have requirements for local business enterprise, small business, and we have additional criteria for mentoring of small businesses or disadvantaged businesses. So we fold that into all of our contracting opportunities.
Understood. And then the portion that's covered under the Army Corps of Engineers, I imagine there's federal funding involved, and we wouldn't be able to implement the sort of local hire or those more aggressive workforce policies. Can you tell us about the workforce policies that would be utilized on the federal portion? And if you don't, I hate to put you on the spot, but just because Member Berry brought it up, I want to see if I would imagine they would exist. So that's why I'm kind of giving you an opportunity to speak on it if you know.
I work with the Waterfront Resiliency Program, and I work with the engineering group and do construction bidding projects. So I have had some experience with federal grants that have occurred on the waterfront, and it is more difficult. We are not actually able to use the same local laws that we do in our bidding. But I think we have a culture that we've been fostering with a lot of the, there's what usually, there's a lot of companies that are always kind of keeping their ear to the rail, so to speak, of opportunities that are coming up. We also do a lot of kind of try to do what I would consider sort of, going beyond what's just minimum requirements for contracting. We do a lot of outreach opportunities. We do open houses and things like that to let people know when there's opportunities coming up, whether it's local or federal, so that local people can bid on it. And if it's possible, we do have also done in the past, and hopefully we can get back into this once we can do things more in person, have opportunities for meet and greets, so that if there's a company that's coming from farther afield has an opportunity to meet people who are local companies. And I know we do a lot of specialized work that's in water work, which is kind of unique. There's not a huge number of contractors that do that kind of work. And for several years now that we've been working with those contractors to get them to do more mentoring of local businesses and to get people involved in those businesses so that they can learn those skills. So, but I don't know, does that answer your question?
Oh, I didn't want to interrupt you, but I appreciate the response. I think that just my concern, and I think if I heard Member Barry correctly, is really around workforce policies and not so much. I appreciate definitely the business engagement and the local business engagement. That's very important. But I think that the workforce policies, and it's got to be complicated with the use of federal funds. But I think that leveraging things like Section 3, where there's a focus on minority and female workers, especially in some of these complex trades where they're underrepresented, there are tools available. And we want to know if these tools are already being built into these projects and leveraged, or if they aren't necessarily yet, and that's something that we should be advocating for.
Well, you have time because we haven't turned these into projects yet. So we are still really in this high level phase where we're just conceptualizing these adaptation measures. So we do have this obligation to get the bond projects out, but we're still in the process of identifying what they are, and like we have a list of 15 to 20 early projects, but we don't have enough money to do all of them. So we have to cull that list, work out which ones meet, this complex matrix of like, what's going to be the most effective, feasible, what's going to be the most successful to achieve, what can be built upon. If it's going to be, if we do something now, it needs to be not something that has to be undone in 15 years if we have to do further. So we're still in the very much planning phase of, and nothing has been contracted out yet. So we may probably be making another round of speaking events once we get more into this next phase of what we're going to be doing. So there's still opportunity to, we are taking notes of the questions, and this really is helpful feedback for us to understand what's important to you guys so that we can take it back to the program staff and, make sure that we're kind of making inroads on these issues as we do get into that other phase.
Thank you. And I apologize to my colleagues. Just one last question. And you mentioned this about contracting, getting those things contracted out. One of the other priorities, I know this entire body is concerned by, is that San Francisco has a great deal of in-house expertise and a really robust workforce that can handle technical work like this. And the concern would be, is there a need to, say, contract out for some of those? That's been an issue in the past, to see contracting out for technical work that could be done by city workers in-house. Is that something that has been noted, is looking to first look at our permanent city staff to complete some of this work, as opposed to contracting it out to consultants, which often charge hefty prices?
So are you talking about the design work or the construction?
Design engineering.
We are still working towards working out how that's going to be done. We are hiring in-house as much as possible. I think there will be, so I don't have the insight to tell you exactly, so I think I might have to come back to you with an answer for that. But I think we'll note that that is an important question. We do also have policies within the city where when we are working on something, there's opportunity for right of first refusal from some of the other groups, such as, you know, we work with Department of Public Works a lot if we're working on some parks or other projects like that. So we do that, but because this program already has this program team in place, and we still haven't been getting to that point where we're going to be actualizing, we're still just actualizing the projects. We're still in this phase where we're just sort of planning. I don't have all the answers. So hopefully we will take note, and then we know that that's important.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Thomas and Member Barry. Next, we have Vice Chair Lacroix.
I wanted, if it's okay, Chair Mahogany, I'd like to allow my other colleagues to speak and then maybe kind of give comments and questions toward the end.
Sure. Why don't we go to Vice Chair Lovett?
Thank you. I wanted to address those questions from Member Barry and Member Thomas about workforce training and just kind of provide a concrete example from my day job. I have been collaborating with the Port of San Francisco, its CFO, and also one of the senior community development specialists on a pilot program that would train primarily women to go into construction management and then be eligible for jobs at the port or its tenants and other capacities. And I have been really impressed by the port's engagement from the get-go when we started this about 6 months ago. They have been one of the most forthcoming departments. And as an enterprise department, they have that ability to say how they want to expend these funds in ways that really benefit not just sort of the workforce in San Francisco, but the communities that most need it. So the great thing is, while a lot of my work is centered in Supervisor Mart's district, District 4, this project would actually really benefit the communities along the port. And that would be the Southeast campus, Chinatown, all those communities in between. That to me is really exciting. And I think it's a testimony to what the port is embarking on. And we'll see some tangible results that will have a cohort of people trained and also provided with wraparound support so that women who don't have childcare, who face barriers to higher education, will be supported toward completing their education and receive job placement support.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Lovett. I believe I saw, I don't think we have any other hands up. So Vice Chair Lacroix, do we want to go to you?
Yeah, thank you guys so much. I think everyone brought up some, well, first off, I just want to thank Wendy for coming before us tonight and giving this presentation, especially after a full work day doing other port responsibilities. I do just kind of want to speak to just like the overall spirit of the presentation and then maybe clarify some of the questions that were brought up. So the port's jurisdiction goes from, as far north, it's 7.5 miles of waterfront that goes as far north as like Fisherman's Wharf and as far down as Heron's Head Park. And so it doesn't quite go into the Bayview, but the port is definitely concerned about like how infrastructure along the waterfront impacts the entire city. And so as Wendy was describing, like if we were to have like this big earthquake right now, it would impact not just, the waterfront community or the eastern neighborhoods, but the entire city, from transit infrastructure to power lines to water and sewer that extends throughout the entire San Francisco. And so right now, I think the Waterfront Resilience Program is in this stage of saying like, all right, if there were to be an earthquake right now, and that impacts our seawall, like what areas are going to be the most impacted, and how can we do our best, most intentional work to study and figure out what are the areas that need the most care right away, and what are areas that we can, you know, that are a little bit stronger so we can hold off, you know, like figuring out like, yeah, like where should we apply the most intentional thinking if we have a limited amount of resources at this time. And so I think, you know, the Waterfront Resilience Program and the port is coming before all of us as stakeholders to really kind of give guidance around like what are the different areas along the waterfront do we think are the most impacted, and how would we prioritize, you know, these areas? And these are hard questions, right? Like to think through like, oh, what section of the waterfront makes, you know, is more important than the next? Like there isn't an area that is more important, but if we do only have, if it costs like $3 million and we only have like $1 million, where should those dollars go first? And so I think that's the spirit of this conversation. I think everyone brings up important questions around like workforce once we get to the stage of construction and building. But I think right now it's more of like, what would we even do if something big were to happen? And so I know like the resilience program is, you know, has 3 stages. It's like strengthen, envision, and adapt. And right now I think we're in the envision phase. Like what would a strong waterfront look like? And then moving into and adaption, which is kind of that same thing as well. And I hope that clarifies a bit. I also had a point of, it would be like, there's thousands of jobs that would be lost if we were to sit back, do nothing, and allow the waterfront to just like flood, right? And so that's the point that I think Wendy was making, not that there would be like 1,100 jobs available, is that like 1,100 jobs would be impacted. And I think it would be a good question to know how many of those would be, those jobs lost would be for people of color and Black people, and especially if we were to sit back and do nothing. And a further point, I think like the Port of San Francisco and our Port Commission are working closely with the Office of Racial Equity and our commissioners are giving direction to port staff to make sure that questions of equity and inclusion are brought to the forefront through every part of this discussion, whether it's through potential contracting out of jobs, to execute the measures that are ultimately decided probably in the next few years, like definitely not conversations that are happening now. So those things, as well as like, well, making sure that there's an equity approach even to deciding what areas of the waterfront can use that like $1 million of money that we only have, when if it's a $3 million project. And so I hope that makes sense and maybe clarifies a little bit. But yeah, everyone brought up really excellent points. And I know that Wendy and other members of the Waterfront Resilience Program are available and accessible to have further questions. I encourage everybody to, well, one, follow the Port of San Francisco on social media, to, you know, reach out to them if you have any questions, and go to and participate in the Ask Me Anything that is coming up. I think those would be a really good time to really dig into the work that the Resilience Program is doing a little bit deeper, and get a fuller understanding. And I know that I have other colleagues that have their hands up, so I'll sit back and take off my port hat again. But I just wanted to again express our deepest gratitude to Wendy for coming and giving her presentation today. And I'm also available if folks have questions too.
Thank you, Vice Chair Lacroix. Member Thomas?
Thank you, Chair Mahogany. Just I want to also thank members Levitt and Lacroix for the clarity there. That's helped a great deal on some of these questions as well. And also I want to make sure, and it's absolutely clear, I think this is an amazing initiative that's been undertaken by City County of San Francisco. I think that this program in general will generate with, in new jobs and local jobs for the community in that area if we advocate for the right policies. And I think that I have faith that they'll be installed. And we absolutely need this to save our waterfront. That's without a doubt. So I appreciate that. And also I mentioned local hire without acknowledging that the former supervisor and our current member, John Avalos, is the reason why we have local hire. So thank you, Member Avalos, for that.
Thank you, Member Thomas. I believe we have Member Lee's hand up.
Yeah, I'll be really quick here. Wendy, I just want to thank you so much for taking time to present as member of the class. I know you work probably a very busy day. Another hat that I have worn in the past is that for about 3 years, I served as a co-chair of the Waterfront Land Use Plan Working Group. And this was because back in 1997 or 1990 or whatever, there was a voter mandated measure that said there needed to be a public process to develop a waterfront land use plan that guides, the long range vision for the port. It had never really been updated since 1997 when the first waterfront land use plan came out. So in 2016, this process launched. Over about a 2-year period, there were about 35 meetings and an incredibly robust process that finally included resilience policy. Sorry, there's a echo here. I don't know where that goes from. But there finally included resilience as an entire segment of policy, which was unfortunately not something that was contemplated back in 1997. So a lot of that work, which included something really, really incredible Bayview community leaders, that work is what was sort of set a little bit of that stage for what became the Seawall Resilience Program, what led to the Prop A Seawall bond that's passed a couple of years ago. So this is really building on a lot of work that's been done. I cannot stress the importance of seawall resiliency. I think, it sounds like something that's really off in the future because sea level rise seems slow, but the threats of an earthquake and the impacts that would have on our city would be so devastating that it's just incredibly unimaginable. So I think, for us as SFDCCC who have supported these bond measures time and time again, we need to be really aware of what's been going on because the changes to the harbor that, will eventually happen and the impacts that will occur to be able to do this work is really significant. And I recognize that this is incredibly specialized work at times. And so I think finding the right balance of being able to support local business through contracting, minority-owned business through contracting, and try and figure out how to do this in-house is a delicate balance. But I think the port has really great leadership. So I just want to thank you again, Wendy, for bringing this to us today.
Thank you, Janice.
Thank you, Member Lee. I believe that is our last commenter. Anyone else want to speak to this item? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to our next item, which I believe are the reports. We'll start with the chair's report. I have a couple things that I wanted to discuss. Firstly, I wanted to just congratulate again one more time our executive director on her first meeting. And also I really wanted to make sure to thank our incredible interns who have been helping us manage this meeting and have really kept us afloat over the last month, especially, including Diego, Ashwarya, and Tanusri. And of course, I think we have a real power player in our lead intern, Jason Park, who has really gone above and beyond over this last month, effectively taking over for our previous executive director, Karima, and helping manage the other interns and coordinate many of the projects that the party has really been taking on over the last month, including working on the state party led anti-recall effort. So thank you all so much for your wonderful work over this last month. It has been an absolute inspiration getting to work with you, and you've definitely saved us. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts. I also wanted to take some time to congratulate several San Francisco Democrats for earning seats in the California Democratic Party, and many of whom are actually chairing state party committees. So I just wanted to let you all know who some of these folks are. You may hear some familiar names. On the Credential Committee, we have member AJ Thomas, who is the lead chair for that committee and is co-chaired with Sasha Bittner from San Francisco. Todd David, Martin Rollings Fain, and Ryan McGilly are also members of this committee. On the organizing committee, former executive director Karima Lynch is the co-chair along with Susan Pfeiffer, two names everyone should know very well. And then we also have Brandon Harami and Han Zhou, who are also members of that committee. Again, names that I'm sure are familiar to many of you. On the platform committee, we have Julie Sue, who is the lead chair, and then Jonathan Lyons, who is co-chair, and then our own executive director, Jackie Prager, Sal Rosselli, and Michael Sweet are also members from San Francisco on that committee. We also have the resolutions committee. Jane Natoli and Nima Rahimi are also are members of that committee specifically. And for the Rules Committee, we have Vice Chair Peter Galata representing San Francisco, as well as Sarah Souza. And finally, on the Justice, Equity, Diversity, Inclusion, aka the JEDI Committee, we have Vice Chair Lee Mao Lovett. So congratulations to all those Democrats from San Francisco who are helping lead the state party. And thank you so much for all of the work that you're doing, especially those who are doing double duty at the SFDCCC and at the state party. That is an incredible commitment, so thank you. I also wanted to give a special thank you to Speaker Pelosi, who has provided the SFDCCC with a grant this month for our internship program, so we can do more voter registration and more voter outreach. San Francisco actually has one of the highest voter registration rates in the state, and we want to make sure we maintain that title and make sure we are reaching those communities who have not been connected or engaged with in the past. And I know that Vice Chair Baraka is really dedicated to making this happen and will be updating us further during his report later in the meeting. I also wanted to give a quick plug for signing up for monthly donations to the party, so we can continue doing a lot of this important work that we've been talking about and keep the lights on. There was a challenge, I believe, that started a little more than a year ago to get all the members of the DCCC to become monthly supporters at the $20 level. And we actually still haven't gotten everyone on board. So for those of you who aren't sure if you've already signed up, don't worry, we're going to be getting an updated list so we can let you all know and remind you and bug you so that you can, continue to support the party monetarily. Lastly, I want to give another special thank you. And this time it's to Vice Chair Galata, as well as Susan Pfeiffer, and again, our lead intern, Jason Park, who have been leading the effort, coordinating with the state party and our chartered clubs to do outreach, phone banks, and tabling and more in regards to the recall of Governor Gavin Newsom. We actually had our first phone bank this last weekend at Manny's. To be honest, I was supposed to be there, but I actually had a COVID scare this weekend. Someone contacted me and said that they had COVID, someone I had close contact with. So I wasn't able to attend out of caution, just to be cautious, but I was actually able to phone bank at home. So for those of you who are worried about, going to in-person events, I would firstly say that I believe that there is and actually, I'll leave it to Peter to talk more about the Manny's phone banks, because I'm not sure if they're doing outdoor seating, but I think that they have in the past. So I'll leave that to Vice Chair Galata to do that. But I will say that there are other options as well, including phone banking from home. So I do think it's really important that we get involved. That being said, we do have those weekly phone banks at Manny's. Vice Chair Galata and I have talked about doing an LGBT phone bank on the 28th, and we're hoping the other LGBT members of the San Francisco party will join us and help us spread the word so that we can really make that successful. And I believe members Morales and Ibanez are also working on another phone bank that they will be coordinating to get folks there. But I will make a special plug for this weekend. I know that there is a couple things going on, but it is really important that we have a strong showing. So I'm really hoping that folks today can make a commitment to showing up to the phone bank. I know I will be there to phone bank for a few hours this Saturday. Is there anyone else who's going to be there? Just out of curiosity, if you can maybe raise your hands. Peter's going to be there, Leah, anyone else? I don't know if we have anyone else, but hopefully we will have more people and we can all invite folks to that phone bank. And let's see. I did want to just say a few words about the recall. I know that it, Susan Pfeiffer said a little bit about this earlier, but I just wanted to double down and make sure that folks knew that, there was a UC Berkeley poll stating that this election may actually be much closer than people think. While I believe the poll cites that while only 36% of the state's registered voters say that if voting in the recall election, they would vote yes. with 51% saying that they would vote no and retain the governor. When looking at the voting preferences of those who are most likely to vote, it is a much closer number, with 47% of those voters actually reporting that they intend to vote yes to the recall of the governor, and only slightly more, 50% intending to vote no. So it really is about us making sure that we are putting pressure on everyone and encouraging everyone to make sure that they actually mail in their ballots and vote, because there is a certain level of apathy out there. And I will say, for those of you who don't like phone banking, the couple hours I spent this Saturday, everyone who I actually got on the phone, because there are a lot of voicemails, but everyone who I got on the phone was very excited to hear from me and thanked me for my work, and you know, we're really hungry for that information and knew that it was important to participate. So I would say it was one of the easier phone banks that I've done, and we are only calling Democrats. So hopefully people won't be too upset when you call, and they'll actually thank you for reminding them. So I will leave my report at that. Thank you for indulging me in my speech. And I will now pass it on to Vice Chair Lacroix with Outreach.
Hello, everyone. First off, I just want to say hello and welcome to Jackie, our new executive director. It's so exciting to have you on board. And yeah, I know we're throwing you right into the fire with the first meeting, but I think you rose to the occasion. You're going to continue to do great. And so we're really excited to have you on board. I wanted to kind of piggyback on what Chair Mahogany said earlier about making sure that all of us members are donating as monthly donors to the DCCC. This really helps guide and fund really all of our outreach efforts, especially now with the recall, you know, things happening in the world, in order to really make a big impact there and in touch base with all voters, but especially Democratic voters. We need as many resources as possible. I think I've signed up twice, so now I'm donating $50 a month. This is not in substitute for somebody else, so definitely get your $20 to $25 in. Otherwise, we will be calling you and asking you again. It's really important. Also, just a reminder, I see that Peter had dropped the information in the chat, but please be there and available on Saturday for the phone banking. And I think, like, if you can't be there physically, or if you have something else, maybe I encourage you and urge you to get somebody or to have somebody else committed to attend in your place. I think like that is something that we all have really strong networks. That is something that we can easily do. If you can't make it, you know, send somebody else to come. If everyone can commit to doing that, I think we would have a really strong presence on Saturday and all the Saturdays in phone banks to come. And I also want to encourage people to attend an event happening with one of our charter Democratic clubs, the SFYD. They're having their Ball in Blue this weekend as well. So phone bank in the morning, party in the evening, and celebrate. That would be a good way to spend your Saturday. That concludes what I have planned to say this evening. And if there's any things that come up before we see each other again next month, I'll be sure to email everyone.
Thank you, Vice Chair Lacroix. We'll now move on to voter registration with Vice Chair Baraka.
Hello, everyone. I also would like to welcome Jackie as our new executive director. Welcome. And with that, I would also like to thank her for getting out a meeting invite for the voter registration committee. It's going to happen next Thursday, I believe. And if anyone would like to join us, feel free to do so. Yes, it is the 5th, I believe, Jackie. Is that what we came up with? My calendar's not wanting to come up right now. And if you would like to join, please reach out to myself or Jackie, and we can get you in on that meeting. We wanted to have an event on the 24th, but that conflicted with the governor's recall phone bank. Yes, it is on 8/5 at 4 p.m. But I'm looking at possibly the weekend of the 21st or Sunday the 22nd. but I wanted to make sure that I get on the same page with all the folks on our voter registration committee before I confirm that. I was originally looking at the 14th, but that might be a little bit too soon. But more to follow on that. I want to thank Jason and Member Tung for drafting our letter that will go out to the clubs regarding this program. Things might be a little different now that we're kind of tightening our belt with COVID. People are a little bit more paranoid about having folks show up at their door. So I plan on talking to the committee about what we can do to possibly address that apprehension that folks might have. Maybe it's just doing a lit drop regarding voter registration, but I want to talk to the committee about their ideas around that. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Baraka. Next, we have club chartering, and we have one club that is being rechartered today. I believe you heard from the president of the SF Sex Positive Democratic Club. Colleagues, I believe we can just go straight into voting for this to approve this club. Can I have a motion to approve the rechartering of the San Francisco Sex Positive Democratic Club?
I'll move.
So moved.
And do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Any abstentions?
I abstain.
Thank you, Member Berry. Noted. Congratulations. You are newly rechartered. Thank you, everyone. Next, we have, oops, I'm sorry, my screen. Next, we have issues and resolutions. Vice Chair Levitt, the floor is yours.
Well, along with my colleagues, I really want to welcome Jackie Prager as our new executive director. And I look forward to working with her to help shepherd our resolutions that are adopted. And so that's going to be an important background task that she will help us undertake, as well as so many other things that are the glue of our San Francisco Democratic Party's work. Also, it's just been a real pleasure to work with our managing intern manager, Jason Park. He has been the consummate professional and just, trying to work through some, details and issues. He has been extremely good about communicating, and that's always half the battle. It was wonderful to meet Tanusri in person, as well as Diego at the phone bank last week. And I want to say something about that phone bank too. Having a connection with people across, phone line or otherwise makes such a big difference in hammering home how important it is to vote and to vote against the recall. So, I had a few hangups, certainly more than Chair Mahogany did. And just a lot of nobody at home, wrong numbers. But when you have that one good conversation, this is the cold hard fact that we have to understand, and it's not always in the news reporting. If the first question, which is whether we should recall Governor Newsom, hits a threshold, and so more than 50% of Californians say that, then the second question comes into play. And that's where 46 candidates who are all Republican are going to have a shot at the governorship. But think about it. This means that whoever becomes the new governor of a state that is, the fifth or the sixth largest economy in the world, is going to really have such a small percentage of votes. And they are supposed to represent all of us. A diverse state like California, it chills me and it gives me shudders. And that is why we have to get out there and get people to just mail in their ballots. It's that simple. And then lastly, sort of on the state level too, I'm really eager and glad to be joining this JEDI committee with fellow Democratic leaders around the state, just make sure that the voices of our marginalized folks are heard, and to be an ally and bridge builder to communities all over. And it's really important that we be that voice as the Democratic Party to create the big tent and maintain the big tent so that folks are represented at all levels of government, in the communities, and advisory councils, certainly in our Democratic Party. And so ultimately, when decisions are made and laws are passed, the interests of diverse groups are represented. That's my report.
Thank you, Vice Chair Levitt. We'll now move on to partnerships. Vice Chair Galata, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Mahogany. Good evening, colleagues. Welcome, Jackie. We're so excited to have you on board. Yes, we've talked a lot tonight about the recall, and I'm just going to kind of underscore comments that have already been made, and just really want to acknowledge and appreciate Chair Mahogany, Susan Pfeiffer, and Jason for their work and leadership to really help make the San Francisco Democratic Party the local hub for this statewide campaign. And we've been coordinating very closely with the California Democratic Party, with Lizzie Hayboyer, who is the organizing director for the state party, and who's helping to organize all the county committees throughout the state. And so we are doing our part. We know how to turn out voters in San Francisco, and that's our task at hand, because San Francisco can and will make a difference in this election. I know that many of you volunteered with us with Vote Blue SF in the fall, and we were calling into the Central Valley, we were calling into Arizona, we were calling folks to convince them to vote for Biden-Harris. And as was noted, this is a completely different game. We are talking to San Francisco Democrats. These are our neighbors, our friends. I actually think Vice Chair Baraka was phone banked by I think Member Ibanez, he was on our list. So literally we are talking to each other and people we know in the community. And, phone banking is the primary way we're going to get the word out, and we're going to be talking to voters. But really, I think my ask of the entire committee is that every single one of you is an ambassador and representing the party. And we need your help to use your megaphones and your networks to really talk about this election with your constituents, with your neighbors, with your networks. So even just helping to amplify and make people aware. September 14th, it's an odd date, right? It's not November, it's September. September is the new November. September 14th, that is the final day of voting, but ballots will be dropped to everybody on August 16th. So we are really coming up on this election. It is here in just a few weeks. So we have our work to do. It's why we're standing up these Saturday phone banks. So we launched last Saturday, and just really want to thank the members of the DCCC, as well as our interns, Diego, Ashwarya, Tanushree, and Jason helped plan, like everybody, it was just all hands on deck. And so I just really appreciate how folks have been stepping up. And I'm asking our colleagues to help us either join a phone bank virtually or in person, or also volunteer to help host a phone bank. So we have basically a calendar set through September of these phone banks on Saturdays that will be at Manny's in person, but I'm open to shifting them to a hybrid format where we could have people virtual and in person. So if that is of interest to members of the committee, I'd love to hear that feedback, because we can incorporate that and get people set up online in addition to being in person. So so that's one kind of point of feedback I'd love to hear from the committee. If that would increase your likelihood to participate, please let me know that. Let us know that so we can start working on that. But thank you, Chair Mahogany, for being our kind of first co-host and lead host this Saturday, and would be great to see more members there. You can sign up online. I dropped the link in the chat. Please sign up. We're going to be, all of the RSVPs are through Mobilize. So that's where you'll go to register. There's 2 shifts, 10 a.m. to 11:30, and then 11:30 to 1. We will train you. We will get you set up. Everything is provided to you, the script and the call list. So we will take care of you. All you need to do is show up. It would be great. Thank you, members of Ibanez and Morales as well, who've already signed up to co-host our next phone bank in the following week. I'm going to send out a follow-up email to all members to invite you to select a date and join. Just join us, just add your name. And we'd ask that all you do is amplify the event, invite your friends and your networks, and get people to show up, and then show up as well yourself. And then also to our Democratic clubs, would love to see our clubs also partner with us. I'll be following up with our clubs to ask them as well to join us. We can also support our clubs if they're interested in hosting their own phone banks, but really these Saturday phone banks are just waiting. They're pre-programmed. We're willing partners with anybody who's down to work and partner with us. I also know that we're talking with the San Francisco Labor Council and other labor partners on some phone banks as well. So really just whoever's ready, willing, and able, we are happy to partner with you, and we would really appreciate your partnership. We just launched today as well a one-stop shop page on our website on sfdemocrats.org as well. So we're going to be populating more info there, and that'll be a resource hub as well for voters and folks who are looking for more information about what's on this ballot, how do I vote, where do I vote, and also how can I get involved. So we'll be populating more events on that page. So I'll be following up via email with everybody. Let me know if you have any questions, if you have ideas or ways you want to kind of engage on this. I really can't thank you enough and very much invite you and your leadership and partnership in this work. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair Glada. And are people able to phone bank outside, or is it just inside in the back?
Oh, yes, you likely can. There's the parklet outside, so you can get set up. And also if folks want to drop by and then get the list or get trained and go home or go off site, that works too. You really just need a Wi-Fi connection. So we can make it work.
Thank you so much. All right, moving right along. Up next, we have a report from our treasurer, Member Morales.
Hi, everybody. Good evening, and congrats again to Kasama Jackie for your new position. Great. My report is always very brief. So our cash on hand for the federal account is currently 16,800 and some change. And for the state committee account, it's $6,300. So thank you so much, AJ and Honey and all of the members that are making efforts to fundraise for us. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Morales. I appreciate that. I would like to actually now, we're at committees, and I would like to bring forward the fundraising committee, and representing the fundraising committee, we have Member Thomas.
Thank you, Chair Mahogany. The fundraising committee met last week. I want to thank especially Jason for his work over the last month and bringing me up to speed on some of the issues, and he's just done a tremendous job. So I want to echo what folks have said about the amazing work Jason has done. I also want to thank members Galata, Lacroix, Baraka, and Kathleen McDonough, who's a proxy for Feinstein, for all of their work on the committee over the last fiscal year. It's been a lot of work, and they've put that time in, and I really appreciate it. And of course, our dear Chair Mahogany for her work on it. We met and first discussed, sort of reviewed the Let's Get Loud event with Tom Amiano. It was incredibly successful given the amount of stressors from COVID and the planning that goes around it. And Tom was a very good guest. We got a lot of great feedback. I'm sure those of you who've donated with the VIP have gotten your books by now. Thank you also to Peter for organizing that. Some of the challenges, it's driving turnout for a Zoom fundraiser event is difficult. People are zoomed out, probably zoomed out right now, but it can be overcome with exciting guests and hosts like Tom and Honey, and that actually helped drive some of the turnout and some of the dollars raised. So we looked into sort of next steps for the summer initiatives. We're looking at first establishing our new fundraising goals. I want to thank Jackie for hitting the ground running as soon as she came on board, set up meetings and got documents together, and was incredibly helpful granted Karima set her up really well. So this was really fun over the last week putting together stuff. But I'm going to work with Jackie and Member Morales to prepare fundraising goals for the next year and have a plan based on our budget needs. We are going to be calling on all of you, all of our members. Expect a call from Honey or myself or somebody else asking you to join us in call time for fundraising or event planning. It's all hands on deck. So please be prepared to pick up the phone when the call comes through. Some of the ideas that we're working on is there's a as yet unnamed recurring donor club. We're looking to foster small dollar donations. I want to thank all of the members of the DCCC who have already done it. I know we started that last year with the 2020 program, and we've got a good chunk of DCCC members who are already contributing as part of that. The plan is to expand it to not only take all of the DCCC members, but outside of the DCCC and create regular engagement events with our small dollar donors and volunteers, where Honey is going to be behind most of those events. And so we can really contact with those folks. Additionally, we're looking to plan a large fall fundraiser. It's tentatively looking to be in late October and will possibly be Halloween themed. So if you're interested in helping to plan that, please let us know. And our priorities there are looking for venues that will permit a shift towards digital should COVID-related concerns require it in the fall. And that is the report from the fundraising committee.
Thank you so much, Member Thomas, for all your work. Are there any other committees that would like to report? If not, we will move on to the report from the Executive Director. Director Prager, the floor is yours.
Hi, thank you so much, Chair Mahogany. For everyone I have not had the pleasure to meet yet, my name is Jackie. I'm absolutely honored and humbled to have been selected as the new Executive Director. I hope that I make our party proud, and I look forward to working with all of you. My official start date was Monday, so only had a few days, but I've had the pleasure to work with all of our amazing interns. I've had meetings with a few of the committees, continuing to set meetings up with the rest of the committees to make sure that I'm quickly caught up to speed. I think the best use of the rest of my report would be if our incredible intern, Jason, would like to take a moment to talk about the work that the interns are doing because they're doing such amazing stuff. So Jason, would you like to speak on those things?
Yes, thank you, Director Prager. First, I want to thank her for working closely with us starting on day one. On Monday morning, she met with us, and it's been an incredible experience working with her starting this week. I also just want to give some shout outs to Diego and Aishwarya for taking on, they've been the hands behind all of the posting on social media and putting together the graphics and the website. So thank you for that. And I also just wanted to highlight some work that Tanushree is doing. She is currently helping us put together the history of the party of the DCCC. Karima had highlighted that we don't have any promotional materials on our website or stuff like that regarding the party's history. And so we're doing research. I'm working closely with Tanushree to find that kind of information and organize it very cleanly. And also she's been incredible in helping us build out our infrastructure of lists of high schools and colleges whom we can tap into whenever we need help with volunteering or interns in the future. So that's just a brief summary of all of the work that we've been doing right now. And I just want to thank my intern colleagues for working closely with me. And we've been an incredible team this summer.
Great. Thank you, Jason. And thank you, Jackie. Up next, and I believe we have her on the line, we have our report from our CDP Region 6 Director, Henny Kelly. Henny, are you there? I think we hear you.
I'm unmuted now. Can you hear me? Well, you can't see me because I'm in Lake Tahoe. All the lights have gone out in our entire neighborhood, and I have 5% power on my phone. So it's going to be short, and I'm short too. Basically, I just want to say we have one more club, so we have to give that club the information of how to get people from our clubs into the pre-endorsement meeting. And I will send out a message to the new club tomorrow morning. But I want to tell you that today we should have all the clubs together. And what we want you to do is to fill out the forms that Jason and I have sent you in Mahogany. We have Honey Mahogany have all sent you the reports with our names on them somewhere in email. And what you have to do is to get your rosters to us, and there is a form that you also have to get to us saying that you want to have delegates at the pre-endorsement meeting. Now there's a problem this year because we have a new form that you have to do, and in the first thing it says is are these people your delegates? Don't worry about that part. Also, don't worry about the birthday. If you have the birth dates, that's great. It's going to help the party make sure that we have the right people in the right place. My birthday is 1942. And if anybody can count back that far, it's 79 years. So I'm putting mine right there. But you do not have to do that. What you need to do is get the names of your people who are your members, and you have to give me their emails and their addresses. That would be great. Get it filled out as much as you can. The other thing that you need to do, and we need to tell everybody who's on here, is that we need to get you registered with the party. And there is on the information I sent out, there is a place to get your whole Excel just put on the party's registry. And if you have problems, anybody, you should be calling me 415-533-5244 or emailing me henekely@aol.com, and it's still AOL.com. So if you can do that, we will be able to basically help you get all that stuff in on time. I want to thank Jackie and Jason. They have been doing an admirable job. And you know something, we have 19 people on clubs from San Francisco. And that's one of the highest numbers for any SFDCCC. So I'm proud of us for having, and I'm not on clubs, excuse me, on the committees. We have 19 people on committees. That is a real high number. And I know the new people and the older people that have been on before are going to really do a great job with those committees. So thank you very much and have a wonderful meeting.
Thank you, Director Kelly, and thank you again for all of your work. That was our last report. We are now at the point where we will be considering the resolutions that have been that are on the agenda. The first resolution that we have is a resolution supporting SB 739, California's Universal Basic Income for Transition Age Youth pilot project by Member Berry. Can we have a motion to consider this item? And do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Member Berry, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Mahogany. Members, I tabled this item previous meeting due to the concern about folks losing one benefit because they got a new one. I've worked a lot with the local guaranteed income, and also I discussed this matters on the state level. And it appears that there's going to be a great effort to educate people who will receive this benefit and let them know the pros and cons. And there will be an attempt, it already exists in some guaranteed incomes as far as waivers from different benefits people receive, and not to have this type of assistance conflict with their other assistance they are receiving. So I do want to amend this resolution. I thank you to Member Ting's office who reached out to me. They actually took the time to read my resolution, and they pointed out that I should be addressing the Appropriations Committee in the Assembly versus the state senators. So I appreciate that. I would like to amend the first resolve to state that, and also the second resolve, I would like to amend the names that were listed and change it to the assembly members' names. It's 15 of them. So for brevity's sake, I will forward those names to our recording secretary and also to our executive director so that we can get this resolution to them, and I have their addresses as well. I would like to open this time to the proxy for Member Ting's office so that he can elaborate more on this resolution.
Great, thank you so much, Member Berry. And I really want to, oh, can someone make sure to mute? I had an echo there, okay. Thanks so much, and I really appreciate Member Berry when I reached out to her that we've had great conversations. What led me to reach out was that the program in this bill was actually has been funded in the budget. It's $35 million we have in the budget already for the California Guaranteed Income Pilot Program, which is very similar to what's in this bill. A UBI program aimed mainly for former foster and transitional age youth. So that being said, I reached out to Member Berry to have the conversation. I actually then reached out to Senator Cortese's office, who's the author of this bill. They've let me know that the bill is continuing to move, even though the program is more or less set up in the budget through the process, which is next is going to be the Assembly Appropriations Committee. They're looking at options about different things to do with the bill to kind of repurpose it a bit moving forward. So we don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but so just I let Member Berry know what they had to say. But for right now, their next goal is to get out of this next committee appropriations to get to the assembly floor, and then they might look at other options for amending it or making it a 2-year bill where it wouldn't, it would keep going forward next year instead of this year. So with that being said, I appreciate Member Berry bringing this up because it gave me the opportunity to just learn a bit about what we are already doing. So with that, looking forward to continuing to work with her. I have a couple of things as I've not had the chance to discuss this with my member, and also since this is a bill that is not yet in front of him, could be in front of him if it gets out of appropriations, we're going to abstain, but I appreciate Member Berry for bringing this up and happy to continue to work with her on this issue as we do this in the budget and as we do other things moving forward. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Member Berry, did you want to provide further comment on this item?
Just to move to make the amendment, and then yeah.
Okay. Do we have a second? A second by Member Lee. Are there any other members who would like to comment on this item?
Member Ma would.
Please go ahead.
Thank you so much for bringing this forward, Member Berry. Because it has to do with the state budget, we will be abstaining, but we do thank you so much for bringing this forward.
Thank you so much, Representative, for Member Ma. Anyone else like to provide comment? All right, well, I would like to be added as a co-sponsor, so thank you, Member Berry, for bringing this forward. And can we have I'm sorry, we had a second on the amendment. Can we have a vote on moving forward the amended version? All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions?
Colin
Nah.
abstain.
Okay. Thank you. It is now, the resolution is amended. Can we now have a vote? I believe I could have done this together. Sorry, I'm still getting used to
Oh,
the procedures.
I'm so sorry. Aye on the amendments then. Sorry.
Aye on the amendments, yes. So we were voting on the amendments. So now we'll move to approve the resolution. Can we have a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Seconded.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye. Aye. Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions?
Colin?
Nah.
All right. So noted. Were you able to get those, Recording Secretary Lee? Yes, thank you. The resolution passes. Congratulations and thanks again, Member Berry. We will now move on to item number 8, which is a resolution in support of protecting our democratic process by Member Tang. Colleagues, can we have a motion to consider this item?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, Member Tang, the floor is yours.
Hi, good evening, members of the DCCC. I've brought this resolution tonight because I know that things have become contentious in San Francisco, that we have Democrats that are in a polarized state. And I think that there's something that we can still all agree on, and is that illegal actions, criminal actions that threaten our democratic processes, whether you agree with a person's perspective on whether or not a candidate is somebody that you want to support or not, or a recall is something that you want to support or not, but the very fact of our institutions and that our processes are in place, that we should be supporting or condemning illegal acts as they threaten the processes that we have set forward in our laws. I purposefully did not name any names or any particular specific recalls or ballot measures or anything of the sort, because I think that this is a principle that we should be agreeing on, is that illegal conduct that threaten our elections should be condemned by our party, that we should have full, free, and fair elections, that we should have processes that support interaction and participation at all levels, no matter what your perspective is in San Francisco. And really that when it comes down to it, that we are a party that believes in rules, we are a party that believes in the law, and that we should not allow criminal behavior to fester within our party itself. So I brought this resolution. I know that Associate Member Harami wanted to speak. I don't see him as an attendee anymore, but I know that he had reached out via email, and if he has something to say at this time, I welcome his comments.
Thank you, Member Tung. Associate Member Harami is actually the panelist, so he's on the
Oh,
call.
I see. Okay.
Great. Thank you, Chair Mahogany, and thank you so much, Member Tung, and congratulations on your new baby, which I was so thrilled to hear. I had emailed Member Tung last week some amendments that I had hoped to propose, and she graciously responded to me, but I imagine there were some priorities that you had to stick to, so very excited for you.
Well, the priority is right here. So.
Oh, there it is. We're all waiting. So I wanted to, so everyone, my name is Brandon Harami. I'm a delegate that's appointed by the Central Committee. I am also the vice chair of the Progressive Caucus for the California Democratic Party. And I pretty much met, I think, most of you in some capacity or another. I'm coming today because I really appreciated Member Tung's proposed resolution. I saw it kind of pop up with an article that Heather Knight had written about sort of like a lot of the experiences and negative experiences many people who are helping run the recall side come out. So I actually wanted to talk a little bit about some of the experiences myself and other folks have talked about. And let me share my screen for the amendments I want to propose. I will say that I have not made any real changes to Member Tung's language of her, and I can share this with you all, Member Tung's language of her proposed resolution, but I did add upon it in the spirit of unity. So I want to talk a little bit, and then I'll go into these about why I wanted to propose some amendments. So first of all, I want to say that I am currently 100% against pretty much every recall that's going on to the city, school board, the governor, the district attorney, but I do share the appreciation for the concerns that Member Tung has brought forward and have strived to preserve her original language while trying to keep the resolution of the resolution to the formatting that we require. So it's a little chunky, I would say, because of that. Now for background, I just want to talk about some experiences that me and a ton of activists have been dealing with throughout elections. This kind of started about last year when we were behind the Democratic endorsed supervisor, candidate for supervisor, Connie Chan. A lot of us were experiencing harassment at home, at work, online. Connie Chan had a ton of her campaign stuff torn down, graffitied. Commie Chan was put on there, and there were Chinese communist imagery used in these situations. Some of us at home received, I received a glitter bomb. I received harassing letters. Other members in the Richmond received very, very similar things, including you heard Brandy Markman mention some of the experience that she had earlier. Some of these ranged on very sexist to homophobic stuff, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. And then I had people on Nextdoor that were very close to the opponent's campaign who actually sent screenshots to the city of Oakland accusing me of campaigning on the work during work hours with an attempt to get me fired from my job. They were thrown out by the Ethics Commission because they were phony, but it was really bad. Going for a little bit further into that, you may have seen the article about Mission Local last year that rolled out that a large number of fake Twitter accounts were being used to spread misinformation, very Trump-like, and they actually were able to trace back some of those accounts to some more moderate groups in San Francisco. These accounts have specifically been targeting many of us online, including myself, the Bernie Kratz co-chair who lives in the Richmond I mentioned, dozens of other activists, mostly in District 1. I also had an account called the Brandon Harami Parody Account, which often took photos of me, made some pretty disgusting comments about myself and my body. And I'm speaking from my experience, but I think every elected official here and those who have ran have seen these accounts and know they exist and have seen the growth in them. But it's not the anonymous accounts. Susan Reynolds from the Marina Times has twice now tweeted misinformation about myself personally, accusing me of being pro-pedophile. I'm not even kidding you. And one of them was actually a doctored image she received from one of these accounts that had its hashtag out to call me pro-pedophile. Thankfully, the Harvey Milk LGBTQ Democratic Club, the Alice B. Toklas Democratic Club, David Campos, Scott Wiener, and many other people, and the SF Pride Board called these out. Susan Reynolds apparently still has her job. But I don't know if you know, but after that, she actually filed a cease and desist and tried to get me fired through that means. And calling someone a pedophile, a gay man a pedophile, and trying to get them fired is disgusting. And she began this effort after I was pushing back from misinformation. And I have a point to this. I'm almost done. I swear. Finally, a few months ago, after criticizing the Recall Chesa Boudin campaign, Richie Greenberg actually sent a cease and desist letter to my work for calling him a Trump supporting Republican, which he is. And Dennis Richards, who is the chair of the San Francisco Republican Party, started a hashtag called Fire Brandon Harami. I'm speaking a lot about my own experience. I am not the only one who has faced these targeted harassment, misinformation, and lies that are being spread by accounts that were leaked back to several moderate groups. I am spreading this information not to try to smear moderate groups, but to speak in the spirit of this resolution, which is pushing back against undemocratic processes. Misinformation, calling gay men pedophiles, that is undemocratic. It is purposely trying to smear us, to silence us. And trying to get people fired, trying to get your opponents fired because you don't like what they're saying online is absolutely ridiculous. I know that online can get contentious. I realize the internet can get contentious, but when these things start coming to your home, your workplace, when they start using homophobic smears, it needs to be called out as well. So if you look at the language of the amendments that I'm proposing, I wanted to include strong language condemning these actions that have been taken by the pro-recall side as well, in the spirit of calling for good faith debate between the recall and the anti-recall folks. And I want to say, as a Richmond resident, and as a former member of the Richmond District Democratic Club, I fully condemn stealing of petitions. I agree very strongly with that. And don't want to make any changes to the language that Member Tung put, just the inclusion. So that is it. I'm happy to talk about any of these amendments I'm proposing or answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Associate Member Harami. Colleagues, are there any other comments on this item or the proposed amendments? And should we keep the shared screen up? Sorry, I see.
So Chair Mahogany, I would just like to say that I haven't seen this particular language from Associate Member Harami. I know that he had given me some proposed language beforehand, which is not mirrored exactly here.
No,
so I haven't.
Sorry.
So I haven't seen this exactly, but again, my point in this was not to name names, not to say name any political figures or any particular recall or any particular Democratic club, because I wanted it to be something that we could all agree on in terms of that we should condemn criminal acts that would threaten our democracy and the processes that are legally in place for elections, for ballot gathering, for signature gathering, for recalls and the like. I understand that Mr. Harami can oftentimes be a lightning rod in terms of his viewpoints, and that certainly I have been on the receiving end of those kinds of harassments as well. People have attacked me for whether or not I'm Chinese enough. People have attacked me for my position and my choice of career. People have attacked me on substantive positions and non-substantive positions that I've taken. And so, the idea that we are public figures in some regard, and that we will have to take criticism that may be fair or not fair, is, I think, something separate from what I am proposing with this resolution. I do appreciate his inclusion of the LGBTQ+ community. I think that I would accept that type of amendment, and then also including any type of historically marginalized communities in my original third whereas clause. But I think on the whole, when we get into specific instances, that it becomes less and less germane to my particular resolution, and it also is not in the spirit in which the resolution was offered.
Thank you, Member Tung. I know that we have a couple other colleagues who would like to comment. I will just say quickly that I appreciate the thought and effort that has been put into this resolution, both by Member Tung and Associate Member Harami. I will say that I do think that some of specifically the second whereas clause actually speaks very well to your resolution regarding protecting our democratic process, including, social media account bots and things of that nature, spreading misinformation. I think that actually really does underscore the ethos that you were talking about. So I do think that would be helpful. I'm sorry, Miss McDonough.
Thank you. I had my instructions on how to vote on this, and I would proceed, but I won't be able to now because there are too many changes if we include everything on there. So I won't be able to vote on this if it changes that much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Walker.
Thanks so much. So first, I just want to apologize to Member Tung. I meant to reach out last week and I didn't until a couple of days ago. And I now understand I didn't know at the time that you were preoccupied, and congratulations on that, by the way. I had reached out because my concern at first in reading this was I had worried that the second whereas, or now, which is, I guess with this amended, the first whereas about recall elections are legal and fundamental process, which they are legal. I just worry that currently we have a recall that is qualified and on the ballot against the governor. And the message, a lot of the messaging is that it's a power grab, et cetera, or so it's an abuse of the recall process. So I worry that this, as I said, I'm not going to comment on the local recalls.
Member Walker, I believe your audio cut out for the last 5-10 seconds.
Oh, sorry. All I was saying was that I worried about, my internet connection's unstable. There we go. First of all, the kind of the mixed messaging a bit, even though yes, they are perfectly legal recalls. The other thing that came up to me that I thought that I went back over our minutes is that in May, we had a resolution opposing all the recalls, which was the governor and then the local ones. I realized that we had not come back with a resolution on, for example, opposing just the gubernatorial recall. So we haven't done that yet as a body, voted to oppose, say, the governor's recall. So I just don't know, I completely agree with the issues around tampering with petitions, all that kind of stuff, but I just wonder if we are putting the cart before the horse a bit as well.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Member Mandelman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And hey, everyone. And I guess I'm having trouble following some of the proposed amendments, actually, and it may just be that it is late and I am tired, and I apologize for that. I do think, what Member Tung is proposing here is kind of hard to argue, in my view, to argue against. It seems pretty basic, and I don't think anybody in this Democratic Party ought to want to be in the business of defending, interfering with ballot, with signature gathering or those kinds of activities. And my concern, and although I am happy to condemn the hate that has been directed at Mr. Harami and some of the other bad actions that have been taken by, whatever. There's lots of things that we can condemn that are bad. It does feel to me like these additions are not what Member Tung was writing about when she wrote this resolution. And I do tend to think that it doesn't really hurt this party, to give Member Tung her resolution without, without the sort of kind of smushing on. What basically feels like a second resolution, which I would probably also support, but I don't know that they belong in the same resolution.
Thank you, Member Mandelman. Member Campos.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I do want to begin by congratulating Member Tung and her family on the birth of their child. How exciting and quite impressive that having just given birth that you are still participating in this meeting. So So thank you for your commitment. I guess what I want to note is a couple of things that I think that it is entirely appropriate on one hand to be against recalls, which I think, we rightly noted our opposition to the recall of the governor, the recalls of the DA and the board members. I think it's appropriate to do that, and at the same time, I think it's consistent to be against any effort to prevent people from engaging in a legally permissible, electoral process as a recall, right? I think that we can be against recalls and against specific recalls and still say, people have a right to engage in that process, don't interfere with it, right? So I think that's appropriate. I do think, though, it's important if we're going to say something about the interference with democratic processes, that we also say something about what both sides are doing, because I do think that there is something to be said for what the proponents of the recall are doing. And so I think that we can tweak some of the specifics and perhaps some of the specificity in the naming of names, that's being proposed. Maybe that goes too far, but I do think that it's important to include in this resolution what is being done by both sides, because I do think that we as the Democratic Party need to just acknowledge that we represent, hundreds of thousands of Democrats who fall within a political spectrum, and that there are different views that are represented in that spectrum, and that our job is to be, an arbiter of people playing by the rules and following the rules and being respectful, and that applies to both sides, not just proponents of the recall, but opponents of the recall, both sides. And so that's I see the comments, that the additions that Mr. Harami is making are in that spirit. That said, I would also say this about the local recalls, that as much as there might be some Democrats involved, if you actually look at the funding of the local recalls, whether it's DA or the Board of Ed, there's a lot of Republican money in those local recalls. And so I think that, you have to be nimble and nuanced in this approach. And I think that the nuance of what's happening requires that if we pass something that condemns certain action, it should be done fairly of both sides. That's what I would say. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Campos. Member Barry.
Yes, I would like to say that I definitely oppose the slander that Associate Member Harami has received. However, I don't think this body should be used to be involved in his Twitter wars. And as far as Member Tung's resolution, I had my own comments, but I prefer to give the comment of a member of the public who has never received her link to make public comment. And I stand by what she says. She says, it's Laura Golden. I wanted to call in to speak against Nancy Tung's resolution. I never got a link to call in. By stating that recalls are a part of our democratic process, the resolution effectively reverses the position the San Francisco Democratic Party has taken opposing the recalls. None of us who oppose the recalls condone illegal contact, whether it be the conduct of signature gatherers or solo individuals who oppose the signature gathering effort. The fact that the recall process undermines our democracy. It enables a few to remove duly elected public officials without cause and to replace them either with a candidate supported by a very small group of electors or by those handpicked by the mayor. Recalls are not democratic. They disenfranchise voters. They waste tremendous resources. The San Francisco Democratic Party must remain clearly on record opposing the recall efforts. This resolution effectively undermines that position. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Berry. Member Moliga?
Thank you, President Mahogany. Good evening, colleagues. Thank you, Member Tung, for the resolution, and congratulations on that beautiful baby. You're double working overtime and hard work, and I appreciate you. I didn't have too many comments. I was just really curious about, the resolution in itself and, the spirit of it. But my question really was around the timing of the resolution, specifically here in San Francisco, that I was curious about. Right? And so would love to just kind of hear some feedback around that if possible.
I would say that the timing of the resolution is consistent with what's been going on in our political space right now. Nothing more, nothing less. I mean, we as a party need to be able to say that we condemn illegal acts that are threatening criminal acts, that are threatening our democratic processes. And, I understand that there are some people who would say that recalls are undemocratic, but they are in fact part of the fabric of our government, the way that we have approached our government for many, many decades. And there's a series of steps that one must take in order to get a recall in place and on the ballot, and it ends with an election, either a yes or no vote. And so if that's not democratic, then I don't know what is. In terms of the timing, it's, these are issues that have been coming up in the local recalls that have been going on. I really felt that the party should take a position condemning things that are criminal, illegal acts. And I took care not to mention any names, any people who are suspects, any specific recalls, because if there's one thing that we can do to bring some more civility into our political lives, it's to condemn criminal acts. And that is the only point of the resolution.
Thank you, Member Tung. Member Galata?
Thank you, Chair Mahogany. Yeah, I had just a few comments, and congratulations, Member Tung.
Anytime somebody says congratulations, I'll put the baby up and so you can see the baby.
So I think I understand the spirit of this resolution. I understand, the need to bring this forward in the sense of calling out these actions, but I think the question is, the scope of this resolution in terms of, I think we've heard tonight that there's kind of a broader set of issues that we're facing in San Francisco when it comes to civility. There's been some very specific actions that we've seen, but also it's a bit of a powder keg. I feel like things have intensified, and the recalls, they were already intense. And I think we're seeing more conflicts in because of the recalls coming forward. So tensions are high. And I think if the spirit of this resolution is to kind of bring people together, to unify and to really kind of make a joint statement about kind of the state of civility, I think I have some concerns with the language, because I just don't think the language really addresses that. I think we're really focused on this criminal activity, which I understand, but I have concerns also. There's an ongoing investigation of this matter at the Attorney General. And for us to be weighing in on prosecution, I have some concerns around law enforcement and what we're saying in this resolution and that specificity. So I think accountability is important. I also believe in restorative justice. I also believe that we need to have conversations and try to bring people together to reduce the tension that we're seeing in the city. So I guess I'd like to see us actually have that conversation. It seems like there's amendments that are being proposed, there's language, I think we as a committee should weigh in on what that language is. I don't think we're going to accomplish that tonight. So I would be in favor of actually leveraging the resolutions committee of this body to actually put together a joint statement that we can bring folks together around this, and make a statement that we all can support. So that would be, if I don't know if I can make a motion to that effect, but I would like to see us, take time to get the language right where we feel there's consensus. I think there's been a lot of comments tonight. I see more hands up, so I will cede time back to the chair, but that would be what I would suggest.
Thank you, Member Galata, or I'm sorry, Vice Chair Galata. Associate Member Harami.
Thank you so much for that. And I do just want to note, Member Tung, the original language I sent you, Leah Lacroix was nice enough to email me and say that I had too many whereas clauses and too many be it resolved. So I kind of just combined what I initially sent you into big chunky things. So the original language is still there that I sent you. It's just been, I've kind of moved things around to do that whereas clause just for that. I do want to just mention a few things that I think are really important. I know I heard lightning rod used to describe me, and I heard we shouldn't take a stand on my Twitter wars. I want to reiterate that this is not just me, that I would advise you maybe to talk to Connie Chan or any member of her campaign. A ton of people in the Richmond have been receiving mail, threats. I had some guy online tell me that he knew where I live and he was going to protest in front of my house. That is voter intimidation. That is intimidating your opponents. And I will say that lightning rod and Twitter spites, calling a gay man a pedophile is more than a lightning rod. When I have a gay dad, I don't talk about this very much. When I was a kid, I didn't see him for a long time because my parents, or not my parents, my family thought he was a pedophile. I wasn't allowed to see him for 3 years. It's not an easy thing to be called. It is something that from back in the days of Anita Bryant has been very painfully used against us. I know many members on this call understand growing up gay is not easy. Getting called stuff like this and then having your job threatened because of it is not easy. This isn't just about me, but I'm going to speak from my experience because it is very painful. And I honestly, in December, thought about just quitting everything because folks online are going beyond debate. They're going into personal attacks. They're intimidating you home. And we can disagree all day long. And I have no problem disagreeing or arguing with anyone. And you all know that. But I also believe that we have to show some level of empathy and kindness, and that we can't reduce ourselves to smears and attacks and misinformation. So I just wanted to leave those notes. This has really been really hard. And I just want to see us maybe move forward as a Democratic Party together, move away from this nastiness. And I really want to emphasize that it's not a lightning rod. It is calling a gay man a pedophile and trying to get him fired.
Thank you, Associate Member Harami. And I'm sorry for all that's happened to you. Mr. Walker.
I'll be quick. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk this much, but I would just say that I personally, I think it's a good idea I think that Member Tung deserves something, within the spirit of resolution. But at the same time, I don't disagree with the idea of working on this to kind of keep hashing some things out. I've seen some of the stuff that's happened to Associate Member Harami. It's awful. I've had at my day job anti-gay stuff, and it's hard. That being said, couple things is, first of all, just I haven't had the chance to really go over this with my members, so I'm going to abstain if it comes to a vote. I do think that that the impetus behind Member Tung's resolution is with merit. And I just want to mention just one more time, not that it really is germane, but I look back at the minutes from the May meeting, and I believe the resolution opposing recalls was tabled to work on language and didn't come back. So unfortunately, our next meeting is only a few weeks before the recall, but that's another thing too, is maybe we can find a way in the meantime as well to include something about the governor's recall. I don't know. I don't want to muddy the waters on that, but I just want to mention that just because I did go back to look at Oh, it did pass then, Member Lee? Okay, that's not what the minutes say. So anyway,
It was a momentary table so that behind the scenes people could work out the language, but it was brought for a vote at the end.
Oh, well, I'm sorry about that. My memory fails me. So with that, I will stop talking.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Member Avalos.
First of all, I want to see that baby. So congratulations, Member Tung.
Here you get an up close person.
That's just lovely. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I've been really torn about this resolution, and I really appreciated some of the people who came for public comment, in particular, the gentleman who was collecting signatures. And I saw the video and I saw what he went through, and I just thought that was just horrible. And as I believe as an immigrant, experiencing that, I can imagine just how horrible that must have felt. And I'm moved by that. That was a criminal act to actually interfere with that process. And I recognize that. I personally condemn that. And I actually want to note that, that condemnation also, hinges on this, who this person was that experienced that type of trauma. That was a real thing. And however, I don't see a conspiracy that's happened here. I see a one individual incident that's happened. And I do believe that there are acts that are breaking our ethics laws that are, I'm not sure if those are criminal acts or civil acts that are violations of the law. They do have weight, and they do have weight, and they do have influence over the democratic process. And the very recall itself is that. We talk about recalls being a fundamental part of our democratic process. Actually, I do not believe that they're a fundamental part of our democratic process. I believe that they are a part of what types of tools are available to voters to assert their rights. One part of our democratic process is actually honoring the will of the voters. The will of the voters is the most sacred thing in our democratic process. And when the voters, we're in a crisis period right now where we have several crises running down on us, the pandemic being the greatest one. We have climate change, and then we have the crisis of how our government responds to that. There are many, many difficult choices that that politicians need to make. That's why they're politicians. And just because we disagree with the decisions that politicians make doesn't mean that there's a necessity to have them recalled from office. We could be doing this forever. And so that makes the effort and the temptation to go after every politician who we disagree with, to go after them with a recall effort, is a very divisive thing. And we just always end up in this vicious cycle of division. This resolution can be seen as part of that. And I actually support the idea of moving this resolution to next meeting, to have a resolutions committee to actually review it, so that we can actually make it not about one single event, but about how these incidents that undermine our democracy can be condemned in total by our Democratic County Central Committee, and not just one single act by an individual that doesn't really show a conspiracy. The conspiracy really is how the crises that we are in are exploited by people who want to make political hay to be able to advance, careers or positions, or to destroy our democracy. And those are the things that we really need to condemn. So I would support, and I'd like to motion that we move this resolution to a resolutions committee, so that we could actually have it, shaped in a way that meets all of our needs for this resolution, what we want to express as a Democratic County Central Committee. So I make that motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. So we will call this to vote. All those in favor?
Wait, I think there were some additional comments.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Oh, I see. Okay. Member Lee.
Yeah, I think before we take a vote, it'd be helpful to hear from the people who haven't yet spoken, just because I'd be curious to hear how other people feel about this. I will just say, I don't talk a ton about the texts I receive. I certainly receive the world of them as one of the youngest, people elected in San Francisco, who's also a woman of color. I get the rape threats, I get all that. But whenever I tweet anything, I also get like whistleblower complaints and fraud complaints sent to Bart because I like tweeted something about like Elon Musk, for example. Like I really get the world of things. They suck. I'm sorry. I know almost everyone on this call has received some version of that. I would say that Member Avalos, in talking about the language of the second whereas clause, I think Member Avalos said everything that I would say about the questioning of the term fundamental. I actually share a lot of what he said about that. I don't think I'm going to have the votes to move forward with this. I actually feel good with this resolution, except the second whereas clause. I think that it gets, people a little bit worked up about, calling it a fundamental process and how the recalls fit into our democratic processes. But I think everything else, the hereby resolved statements, I would absolutely stand by them. And I don't know if there would be votes to consider passing this resolution and if Member Tung would be okay with removing the whereas. If not, then disregard that and we'll take the vote as is. But that's all I have to say.
So if I could have a point of clarification from Member Lee, would removing the "and fundamental" part, would that satisfy you?
I was going to suggest that, Member Tung.
I would be okay with removing just the fundamental yeah, I would be open to that, just actually keeping the whole thing and just removing "and fundamental process." And I am also, sorry, the other thing I forgot to say is, Brandon and whoever else who has faced like that form of voter suppression and harassment, I am committed to working with you to introduce a resolution in August that addresses those concerns 100%. I would absolutely welcome the wealth of public comment to express people's experiences around that.
Thank you, Member Lee. In terms of an amendment, I'm happy to take the "and fundamental" part out of the second whereas clause. I have no problem with that.
Thank you, Member Lee and Member Tung. We have Member Campos next.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'll be very brief. And can we see the baby again? I'm sorry, I'm like, I love babies. That is a really cute baby. My suggestion would be, and I appreciate the point from our recording secretary, but I actually think that even with the removal of that language, I think there's more work to be done with this resolution. I thought I would come in here and vote one way or the other, but I actually like the idea of sending it to the resolutions committee so that we have some time for different people who are not as tired as all of us are tonight to maybe take a break and go back to it in the next few days and come back with language that makes sense. So I will be voting for the motion to send to the resolutions committee for that reason. But I think that there's a way that we can strike the right balance to acknowledge the very legitimate points made by Member Tung, and at the same time, the legitimate points that have been made by people on the other side. So in that spirit, I will be voting for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Campos. Mr. Perkins.
I came in here tonight thinking that this would be a fairly straightforward vote in favor of obeying the law in the context of elections and opposing intimidation tactics. And as I'm looking at it, I would hope that that would always be the beliefs that all of us would have, and I think that it is. On behalf of Congresswoman Spear, I was prepared to vote in favor of this. As it stands, I would just suggest, Member Tung, that if you want the vote tonight, I hope that you would reconsider. I think that you have an opportunity to actually get a lot of other people on. That's a choice that you'll make. And on behalf of Congresswoman Spear, we would support going forward if you wish, but it looks to me like you have a chance to get a broader based coalition. And I don't think anybody on this meeting tonight is any more in favor of enforcing voting law and the rest of it than the elected folks that are on here that are, in some cases under dire threat in the course of their duties. So those are my thoughts, Member Tung. I hope, and congratulations on the baby. I have to say that is a marvelous child. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Perkins. Vice Chair Lacroix.
I was on mute. I just had, as people were starting to make motions and suggestions and stuff, I was following along, but I was starting to even get confused as well. And so I just wanted to take a moment to kind of have what the different motions are that are on the floor restated, as well as the order in which, so that we all are aware of what we're being asked to vote on. And I apologize if I'm the only one that's feeling a little confused, but I think that would just be my one as parliamentarian advice and my request as a member.
We actually only have one motion, formal motion on the table, and that is the one from Member Avalos, which is to table this item to allow it to be reviewed at the Resolutions Committee before bringing it back to the full committee, ideally next month, and that was seconded by Member Galata. There's no other motion on the table.
Okay. Okay, that's neither here nor there.
No, sorry, I lied. The original motion was by Member Chu to approve the resolution and was seconded by Member Ma.
Yeah.
My apologies. I don't know if we do substitute motions here. If we do substitute motions, the substitute motion is the one from Member Avalos that I just stated.
Yes. That's what I was trying to keep track of, as well as other suggestions about changing, a certain line or whatever. I think it was for me, it was starting to get muddled, and I really just wanted it to be super clear.
Thank you, Member Lacroix, or Vice Chair Lacroix. Member Thomas.
Thank you, Chair Mahogany. And thank you, Vice Chair Lacroix, for clarifying that. I was getting a little confused too on these step motions. I wanted to thank Member Tung for bringing this resolution. Oh, first, congratulations on the birth of your child. And I wanted to thank you for bringing this. I saw the video as well, and it was disheartening to look at. I think the motion was the resolution was definitely warranted, and I appreciate you raising these issues. Additionally, thank you to Associate Member Harami for bringing issues that I think are definitely relevant to the main resolution. And I think that most of the spirit of what you're adding adds to and makes it a stronger resolution. But I do empathize with some of the observations made by Mr. Walker and members Galata and Mandelman regarding some of the language and how it could confuse with the statewide recall discussion. Additionally, the criminal justice and restorative justice elements pending investigation. But I do believe that consensus is possible. I think that there is a version of this that we all vote on. Yes, and I think that that's probably, like as Member Galata mentioned, not going to happen after 9:30 tonight. So I would support referring this to the Resolutions Committee so that we could have something that could pass, by acclamation at our next meeting.
Thank you, Member Thomas. Member Tung.
So I'd like to just address a point that Member Avalos brought up, that this is not a single incident. As people have discussed the incident involving Mr. Kitlam, but there was also a second incident that was reported in the media regarding a volunteer that was assaulted for one of the recall campaigns, and a petition signature page that was defaced by the person who assaulted this volunteer. So, these are issues that I think that have arisen because in some respects, the divide in politics has gotten so large. But you know, there are certain things that I'm willing to do with respect to this resolution. I'm willing to accept a friendly amendment to take or amend it to take the and fundamental portion out of the whereas, put in inclusive language for our LGBTQ plus community and other marginalized communities, so as not to intimidate or you know, further disenfranchise them in terms of their ability to participate in the political process. I appreciate that people are feeling that there should be a that this could go to the resolutions committee, that there could be some additional amendments to make people more comfortable with the resolution itself. However, I am comfortable with the resolution, and I think it states my intention, particularly with the added amendments. And I'd ask for a vote tonight on it.
Thank you, Member Tung. Vice Chair Lovett.
First of all, I appreciate people weighing in around their feelings about the recall. If we just kind of stay with this particular resolution, I'm really seeing that it's the recall along with just our overall electoral processes. But it's good to hear this discussion because we are facing these challenges and so much effort across the state and abroad to kind of throw our voices or put out our voices at these situations that we no longer find tenable, and to kind of find blame sometimes, right, in the individual around things that are really systemic. So in that respect, my issue is that the resolution, at least in the resolve, seems in part to be focused on the actions of individuals. And I would like to see kind of that focus on, what are the systems in place? Because there will always be individual bad actors. We could make a laundry list. We can make a laundry list on both sides. And does that get us further in terms of addressing systemic change? That should happen. There's a part about law enforcement. So yes, that is a systems approach to dealing with criminal acts, illegal acts. There's a part about inadvertently contributing to a political culture. I think I would need some more clarity about that because we have seen great divisiveness and people don't act in isolation. So what are you saying about our social systems? So I see the opportunity here to strengthen the resolution, to give it more time, to move this to resolutions committee. And that's where I agree with Member Avalos and others on that particular motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Lovett. Member Tung.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot to address one more thing. There was also a comment about, restorative justice and, outcomes for prosecution. The last sentence or the last portion of the be it resolved, it kind of approaches that question. It didn't, I was careful not to say, prosecute to the fullest extent of the law, because there are times where, a diversion or restorative justice or some type of other mode of, deferred prosecution could be appropriate in a situation. I'm not saying in a specific situation because this resolution was not designed to be specific to any situation. So for those of you who may have some concerns about that, the last phrase or the last clause of the be it resolved, it was had that in mind. That is, there are many different outcomes to a case that is filed criminally or even before a case is filed, and that the appropriate law enforcement agency would be the arbiter of that.
Thank you, Member Tung. I don't see anyone else with their hand raised to comment on this item. So I believe we have two motions. I believe the motion there's a motion to send to committee, and that motion takes precedent, I believe. I'm sorry, Member Thomas, did you have a comment?
I was just going to call the question if there weren't any speakers.
Okay, yes, we can call to question. So this is the motion to send this resolution to committee for further deliberation and to bring it back at the next meeting in August. All those in favor, say aye.
Yeah, roll call.
Aye.
I think I'd ask for a roll call vote, Chair Mahogany.
Thank you, Member Tung. I'm sorry about that. Recording Secretary Lee, can we please have a roll call vote?
Yep. Sorry. I just need to, does this work? Hold on, I just want to make sure. Okay, cool. I have my vote counter on. All right, Member Oblos.
Aye.
Member Baraka.
Aye.
Member Barry.
Aye.
Member Campos.
Aye.
Member Chen.
Pass.
Member Dufty, and this is Chanel Williams as proxy. I'll skip. Member Galata.
Aye.
Member Haney, there's a proxy.
Aye.
Member Banez, don't think is here. Member Kim. Member
No.
Kim. Member Lacroix.
Aye.
Member Lee, pass. Member Loftus, proxy is Queen Chen.
No.
Member Lovett.
Aye.
Member Chair Mahogany.
Aye.
Member Mandelman.
No.
Member Marr.
Yes.
Member Maliga.
Yes.
Member Morales. Member Morales. Member.
Can you come back to me? Sorry, Jen.
Yeah, no worries. Member Raju, there's a proxy.
No.
Member Ronan. Carolina, you are proxy. Oh my gosh. Sorry.
Yes.
Hey, stop it.
I figure it out.
Hey. Oh my gosh.
It's okay, they bark.
What's happening? I'm so sorry. I think she might have to go to the bathroom. All right. Member Thomas.
Aye. Yes.
I might have to pass this on to someone. Jason, I can share the sheet with you. Member Tong.
No.
Member Williams. Member Feinstein.
Abstain.
Member Pelosi.
Abstain.
Member Spear.
No.
Member Ma.
No.
Member Cohen.
No.
Member Weiner.
No.
Oh, Member Chu.
No.
Member Ting.
Abstain.
Okay, I'm gonna share this with you right now, Jason.
Jason's no longer in the meeting, but you can share it with me.
Okay, I'm so sorry. You should be able to view this already. Okay, so I have to go back to Member Chen. You had originally passed.
No.
Member, I'm guessing Member Williams is not here to be proxy for Duffy. For me, Member Lee, I'm going to vote no. In total, there were 12 yes, 12 no, and 3 abstentions. So this does not get a 50+1 and therefore does not pass.
Sorry, Recording Secretary Lee, I don't think Member Morales or Ronan voted.
Morales and Ronan they passed.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I can do that again. So Member Campos, I have a yes noted for you. Member Banez, don't have that she is present. Member Morales, what is your vote?
Yes.
Okay, and then for Member Ronan?
Yeah.
Okay, and so that changes the vote count. We now have 14 yes, 12 no, and 3 abstentions. So this motion passes.
All right. Thank you, colleagues. We will now move on to our item number 9, resolution in support of AJR 17, military behavioral health care. Colleagues, can we have a motion to discuss this item?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Member Barry, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Mahogany. I hope this goes fast. Members, I've been searching for over a year to find a bill that supports veterans. I served 13 years in the military. A lot of us joined because we could not afford college and or pay off student loans. While serving, a lot of us are reluctant to seek mental health treatment because the stigma that is attached and fear of being kicked out. After we come home, we face challenges with the veteran mental health system, especially if we are not a white male. Cultural competence is also a huge problem. It has been brought to my attention that a Republican is the author of this bill. Yesterday, I watched a Democrat congressman advocate for funding to prevent veteran suicide. Both parties seem to comprehend there is a problem, and I'm introducing this resolution for the veteran community, regardless of who introduced it. Here in San Francisco, 656 of the homeless population are veterans. There is an average of 121 justice-involved veterans a year in San Francisco. I know as a progressive, however, I'm Black Progressive 2.0. I'm supposed to be anti-war, and I am. However, I believe until living wages, deeply affordable housing, education, and white supremacy are boldly addressed, we must care for the mental health of the poor that risk their lives for this country in order to make it in this capitalism society that does not equally allow everyone to participate. Thank you.
Thank you so much for bringing this resolution forward, Member Barry. I see we have Member Avalos on stack.
Yes, thank you. I would like to co-sponsor this resolution, and I work as the National Union of Healthcare Workers, and a big part of our union is comprised of mental health clinicians. And we are fighting to make sure that mental health and behavioral health services are treated as equally as physical health issues. That's called mental health parity. And that's actually the law of the land. And but there's so little that's given to actually ensuring that people have the access they need to get the treatment they need to be able to get their lives back on better footing. And veterans who have given their lives for the ideals that our country stands for are the ones who actually deserve it the most, who've actually been greatly harmed going into battle and into service. And they come back and they don't get the care that they need. So I fully believe that we actually have to support bipartisan efforts more and more. I mean, we actually don't have very many occasions we actually do support bipartisan efforts, and this is one of them. Just because this is sponsored by a Republican means that we actually should embrace this legislation when we both agree on the necessity of coming together to serve the people who have been harmed by our foreign policy or harmed by policies that affect our communities. So I'm fully supportive of this resolution, and I hope colleagues we can support this unanimously.
Thank you, Member Avalos. Mr. Walker.
Thanks. I'll be brief. I had a great conversation with Member Barry yesterday about this, and I wanted to just kind of reiterate something I had said to her as well. Absolutely agree with the thrust of this. I feel that for this particular bill, and I will try to redouble my efforts to help identify bills to support that help veterans, and I do that kind of looking for things in the process to pull out, and happy to talk more with Member Barry. Just for this particular resolution, it's a resolution in the Assembly that is calling on Congress and the President to do, and the Federal Department of Veterans Affairs. So I just want to make that clear that it's not really a bill that's doing anything. I mean, it's a resolution, it's a statement of purpose. With that being said, it's something that could come before us. We're going to abstain.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Are there any others who would like to comment on item number 9? All right, seeing none, can we have a motion on this item?
Motion to pass.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, and I would also like to be added as a co-sponsor to this resolution. Thank you, Member Barry, for bringing this forward. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed? Any abstentions?
Member Ma, and I'd like to note that it's just because it's pending legislation. But thank you again, Member Barry, for bringing this forward. Your issues are always very timely.
And Member Ting also abstains. Thank you. So noted.
Thomas abstains as well. Similarly, we're evaluating this at the state committee, but I love the spirit of it though.
Thank you. And then we also have some more co-sponsorships. Congratulations, Member Barry. And thank you for bringing that forward. All right, that brings us to the end of our agenda. Is there any new business that folks would like to bring forward at this time? I see a member, Vice Chair Galata.
Thank you, Chair Mahogany. It's not necessarily an item for new business, but an in memoriam. Would like to ask that we adjourn tonight's meeting in memory of Sally Gearhart, who's a lesbian activist, writer, leader, who helped defeat the Briggs Initiative. So I would just ask that we adjourn in memory of her.
Thank you so much, Member Vice Chair Galata. Vice Chair Lovett.
So I want to return to the issue around sending Member Tong's resolution to committee. As it turns out, there are 2 members of the Resolutions Committee, and that is Vice Chair Galata and myself. I think we should have an inclusive and more open process, and maybe also a process that kind of reflects how the vote shook out, as opposed to who's able to show up at a meeting on Friday night or spend time in a Google Doc. And maybe we can discuss this via email, but let's come up with a process whereby perhaps there could be delegates from the yeses and delegates from the nos to review this resolution and come up with hopefully something where we'll have some consensus and a vote at the next meeting.
Thank you, Vice Chair Lovett. I will also just mention that I did hear that some folks were wondering if on item number 8, the vote was taken in the correct order and which motions take precedent. Maybe that is something that we can have Vice Chair Lacroix look into. I'm not exactly sure what that would be. Proxy for Chu, Mr. Hunter.
I do believe that Member Avalos's motion does take precedent as it's a referring committee over the actual vote itself.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for that clarification.
Sorry, yes. Just, with as parliamentarians parliamentarians, wanting to just definitively say that motions are taken in order that they're made. So for example, if you have the basic motion, which is to adopt the resolution, and then somebody, makes an amendment, it kind of layers on top of each other, and you have to take the last item at the top layer and work your way back down. Maybe something that we can do in the future is have an agenda item that kind of goes over our rules of order and different like common practices when it comes to motions and seconds and stuff. I think that might be a good refresher for all of us. But in this particular case, I just wanted to say that yes, the motion that was made by Member Avalos was the top motion, or the last motion that was made. And if his motion wasn't passed, then we would go back to the original motion. I hope that helps clarify things for folks.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair Lacroix. I appreciate that. All right. Thank you again, Vice Chair Galata, for bringing this forward. So if there is no other new business, seeing none, we will adjourn in the memory of Sally Gearhart, an American teacher, feminist, writer, and political activist who was 90 years old when she passed. Thank you so much again, Vice Chair Galata, and thank you, Democrats. We will see you next month.